But be honest with yourself. How many times have you felt invisible? How many times have you spoken up only to feel ignored, overlooked, or dismissed? The truth is, real respect isn't given to the loudest voice. It's not about showing off, forcing attention, or trying to impress others. True respect is silent. It's built through presence, through discipline, through the way you carry yourself every single day. And the good news, you don't need to be born confident or powerful to gain that kind of respect. You can build it. Starting today, you're going to discover these aren't tricks or temporary tactics. They're ancient principles, timeless, proven, and used by some of the most respected men in history. So get ready, because after this video, the way you walk, look, think, and live will speak louder than any words ever could. But before we begin, I want you to write this in the comments. This is more than a sentence. It's a promise, a declaration, a mindset shift. The more you say it, the more you'll start to live it. So type it below now, and let's begin. Imagine walking into a room and instantly commanding respect without having to speak a single word. Imagine people noticing your presence, sensing your strength, and paying attention to you not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. 7 stoic ways to command respect without even opening your mouth. Starting today, I will earn respect through who I am, not what I say. I am stoic. Number 1. Master the stillness threshold. Be still. Be unshakable. You don't have to speak loudly to be heard. You don't have to move fast to make an impact. In fact, sometimes the most powerful presence in a room is the one that barely moves at all. In a world where everyone is rushing, fidgeting, reacting, stillness becomes a signal of strength. It tells people, I am not controlled by the noise around me. I am grounded. I am calm. I am watching. But here's the truth. Stillness is not easy. Stillness is not standing frozen. It's not being cold or indifferent or pretending you don't care. Stillness is control. It's the ability to feel a storm building around you and choose not to be moved by it. It's the ability to hear someone insult you, challenge you, or try to provoke you, and not give them the reaction they expect. Because the moment you react without thinking, you give away your power. But when you pause, when you hold your posture, when you don't let your body flinch or your face twitch, people take notice. They might not understand why, but they'll feel it. Think about a wild animal in nature. When it stops moving, when it freezes, everything else around it changes. The mood shifts. The balance of power resets. Humans are the same. In a heated room, the one who stays calm becomes the one others start watching. Why? Because stillness signals control, and control is respected. Deeply. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, ruled an empire surrounded by conflict, wars, betrayals, crises. But he trained himself to be still, to respond only when necessary, not when tempted. In his meditations, he reminded himself daily to be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it. That is the stillness threshold. It's not just pausing. It's standing firm inside, even when everything around you is moving. But how do you develop this? How do you practice stillness in a world that demands constant reaction? Start small. Next time someone says something that would usually make you snap, don't. Breathe. Wait. Let silence fill the space instead of noise. Don't rush to speak. Don't rush to move. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to prove anything. The person who doesn't react immediately often becomes the person others listen to most. Why? Because their words come after thought, not before it. Next time you're in a crowd, in a meeting, in a room full of energy, observe how quickly people move. The tapping fingers, the shifting eyes, the bouncing knees, the fake smiles, the nodding to things they don't even agree with. Then hold yourself differently, plant your feet, slow your breathing, relax your face, keep your gaze steady, not staring to intimidate, but watching with calm curiosity. You're not frozen, you're composed. You are communicating something powerful without saying a single word. I am not afraid. I am in control. Now, understand this. Stillness doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means choosing when to act instead of reacting without thinking. It's not about looking cool. It's about building a deeper form of strength. And strength doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it's completely silent. Most people today are constantly distracted. Their attention jumps from one thing to another. Notifications, headlines, conversations, reactions. But when you train yourself to be still, you're also training your mind to slow down, to think clearly, to see beyond the surface. You'll notice things others miss. You'll catch details in people's expressions, in their tone, in the energy of a room. You'll learn to read situations without asking questions because stillness sharpens your awareness. And that awareness, it becomes your edge. Because once you're no longer ruled by your impulses, you become incredibly dangerous. Not in a violent way, but in a focused, calm, strategic way. You stop fighting battles that aren't worth your energy. You stop reacting to every little offense. You start choosing your actions like a chess player, not a gambler. And people will notice. They won't always know what it is, but they'll feel something different in you. They'll sense that you aren't desperate for approval, that you don't need to shout to feel powerful, that you don't chase respect, you attract it silently. So the next time someone raises their voice at you, or pressures you to respond quickly, or tries to get a reaction, don't give them one. Let your silence be your shield. Let your stillness speak louder than words. Before going into a room, pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Slow your breath. Set your intention. Tell yourself, I will not be moved unless I choose to move. I am still. I am in control. This is how you build presence. This is how you earn silent respect. And here's the final truth. Anyone can shout. Anyone can wave their arms around and try to look important. But it takes discipline to be still when the world pushes you to react. That discipline is rare. That discipline is stoic. And that's why the people who master stillness, real stillness, stand out without trying. So, when the noise gets loud, when the pressure rises, when everyone around you is rushing or panicking, don't join them. Stand tall, stand still, and let the world adjust to your pace. Number 2, adjust micro-posture with intentional delay. Slow down. Move with purpose. In every moment, whether you notice it or not, your body is speaking, and the world is listening. We often think respect comes from the words we say, but in truth, it's the quiet signals, the ones your body sends when you think no one is watching, that tell people who you really are. The way you stand, the way you shift, the way you tilt your head, uncross your arms, lean forward, lean back. These are not random actions, they are messages, micro-movements, and when they're done with intention, they become a language of power. Now ask yourself, how do most people move? Quickly, jittery, reactively. They cross their arms too fast when they feel awkward. They scratch their necks when they're uncertain. They shift weight from foot to foot like they're trying to escape the present moment. And it shows. It tells others, I'm unsure, I'm nervous, I want to be accepted. But you are not here to seek approval. You are not here to entertain. You are here to stand with purpose, to move on your terms, and to control the space around you without saying a word. And the secret to doing that? Delay. Not hesitation, but intention. Every time you adjust your body, do it slowly. Let it be deliberate. Let it come from control, not from nervous habit. When you turn your head to look at someone, do it with calm. When you shift your posture in a chair, don't rush. When you move your arms, stretch your neck, or straighten your spine, do it with presence. Because when your body moves slowly, the mind behind it looks powerful. Think about this. When someone walks into a room and fidgets immediately, people feel their anxiety. But when someone enters, pauses, and adjusts slowly, everyone watches. There's something magnetic about it. It creates gravity. Why? Because stillness and slow movement signal control. And in the human brain, control equals leadership. People don't follow the loudest person in the room. They follow the one who seems least shaken by it. Marcus Aurelius never wrote about posture directly, but everything he stood for lives in this principle. He spoke about carrying yourself with dignity, about acting with intention, about being unmoved by chaos. That's what slow adjustment is. It's your way of saying, I move because I choose to, not because I need to. Let's make this practical. The next time you're in conversation, pay attention to your movements. Catch yourself when you're about to fidget, then stop. Wait 1 second. Breathe. Then, if you choose to move, do it slowly. You'll feel the difference instantly. You'll feel more grounded. And here's the interesting part. So will everyone around you. They won't say it out loud, but they'll feel it. They'll sense that you're not looking for their reaction. You're leading the moment, not reacting to it. Try this in high-pressure environments, in a meeting, on a date, during a conflict. Someone asks you a question. Instead of jumping in, pause. Turn your head slowly. Shift your body gently. Hold eye contact. Then speak. That 1 second delay, it will change everything. Because now, every movement you make says, I'm not afraid to take up space. I'm not afraid of silence. I'm not rushing to prove myself. That's Stoicism in motion, not rushing, not reacting, choosing everything, even your smallest actions, with thought. Here's what most people get wrong. They think confidence is about standing tall or puffing your chest. But real confidence? It's in the timing, the restraint, the calm. Anyone can puff up their chest, but not everyone can stay relaxed under pressure. Not everyone can move with peace when others are tense. That's why it stands out. Now listen to this carefully. The body follows the mind, but the mind also follows the body. When you slow down your movements, you slow down your thoughts. You calm your nervous system. You create space between stimulus and response. That space, that's where wisdom lives. That's where power is born. So instead of reacting to everything that moves around you, practice mastery in the tiny moments. Let your next gesture be half as fast and twice as steady. Let your posture be fluid but grounded. Let your stillness and your subtle motion be intentional. This isn't about pretending to be calm. It's about training yourself to be calm. And over time, those small adjustments build something bigger. They build a presence that people respect without needing to say anything. People won't know why they lean in when you move, why they feel more focused when you speak, why your silence feels stronger than other people's noise, but you'll know. It's the posture, it's the patience, it's the discipline, it's the delay. So the next time you move like someone who doesn't need to prove anything. Move like someone who already owns the room, and let that quiet confidence do what loud words never could. Number 3. Maintain a thoughtful gaze without needing eye contact. Look, but don't seek. See, but don't perform. You've probably heard that eye contact shows confidence, that people who look others in the eye are seen as strong, trustworthy, and present. And while that's true, most people take it too far. They stare, they overdo it. They make eye contact into a performance, not a presence. You can feel it. They're not looking to see, they're looking to be seen. That's not power, that's need. A Stoic gaze is different. It's calm, it's quiet. It doesn't chase approval, it doesn't try to dominate. It simply exists, steady, thoughtful, and relaxed. It says, I'm here, I'm aware, but I'm not performing for you. You're not flinching or darting away, but you're also not locking in like you're trying to win a staring contest. You're present, but not needy, and that changes everything. You've seen this before. Someone who doesn't speak much, doesn't move much, but people can't stop watching them. Why? Because they carry a gaze that feels like it sees more than it says. That kind of gaze doesn't need to impress. It's not flashy. It's felt. It says, I'm thinking, I'm watching. I don't need attention, but I'm paying attention. That's the gaze of someone who doesn't seek approval. That's the gaze of someone others instinctively respect. And here's what most people miss. This kind of gaze doesn't even have to land directly on someone. Sometimes it looks past them, beyond them, through the noise of the moment. You don't have to lock eyes constantly. You don't have to win every glance. In fact, the power comes from not needing to. When you allow your gaze to rest, not bounce, not search, not twitch, you create a sense of inner calm, inner control. That's what Stoics like Marcus Aurelius cultivated. He didn't fight to be heard. He didn't need to interrupt or overpower people with intensity. He practiced being grounded, being present. And presence isn't loud. It's quiet strength. The way you look at someone should say, I see you, but I'm not here to perform. I'm here to understand. That's what thoughtful gaze is. It's not a trick. It's a choice. You can practice this every day. Start by simply noticing how often your eyes move when you're nervous. Notice how fast you look away or how quickly you look at someone just to feel in control. Then shift. Slow down. Hold eye contact for a moment longer. Then let your gaze move. Not suddenly, but gently, like your thoughts are carrying it. Look past the person. Look toward the space behind them. Then bring your gaze back, if it feels right. You're not dodging. You're not forcing. You're moving with presence. And people can feel that. The goal isn't to look mysterious. The goal is to be present without pressure. To look with curiosity, not performance. To see more and show less. That's what draws people in. That's what earns respect. Because when people feel like you're observing, not judging, thinking, not performing, they begin to trust you more. And when you don't need constant eye contact, you show that you're not chasing connection. You're just in the moment. And here's something powerful to remember. Your gaze can be warm. It can be calm. It doesn't have to be cold or intimidating, but it should always be intentional. You are not here to seek approval. You are not here to impress. You are here to understand. And when your eyes communicate that, you build silent respect. So next time you're in a conversation, don't overthink your eye contact. Don't try to hold it like it's a test of strength. Just be there. Let your gaze rest. Let it move when it needs to. And when you look at someone, do it like you're reading them, not like you're waiting for a reaction. Let your stillness do the work. Let your calm observation become your language. Because when your gaze carries thought instead of need, people pay attention. They won't always know why they're drawn to you, but they'll feel it. It's the stillness in your eyes, the lack of need, the sense that you're present, not performing. That's not something you say. That's something you show, without effort, without trying, without a single word. Number 4, control the rhythm of your movements. Slow is smooth. Smooth is strong. In a world where everyone is rushing to speak, rushing to react, rushing to move, the person who moves with calm, deliberate rhythm stands out without trying. Every movement you make, no matter how small, is sending a message about who you are, and more importantly, what's going on inside you. Fast hands, tapping feet, bouncing knees. These are not just habits. They're leaks, signs of internal noise, anxiety, pressure. And even if people don't consciously register it, they feel it. They feel the tension, they feel the restlessness, and they instinctively trust you a little less. Now imagine this: a crowded room, noise, motion, people scrambling, talking over each other. And then someone walks in, not frantically, not hesitantly, but at a calm, measured pace. They're not slow because they're lost. They're slow because they're in control. They're not rushing to match the chaos. They're moving with their own rhythm. And that rhythm speaks louder than anything they say. That's what you're aiming for: controlled rhythm, stoic pace. Not robotic, not dramatic, just steady, unshaken. Your movement becomes your message, the way you walk, the way you turn, the way you pick up a cup, open a door, adjust your jacket, place your hands on a table. All of it sends signals, not just to others, but to your own nervous system. And when those movements are intentional, unhurried and smooth, you create a sense of presence, of credibility, of quiet confidence. People respect what feels solid, what feels stable, and stability shows up first in how you move. Marcus Aurelius led armies, governed crises, endured betrayal, and yet he constantly reminded himself to be measured in all things. Why? Because movement without awareness leads to reaction, and reaction is the enemy of reason. He knew that control of self begins not just in the mind, but in the body, in the hands, in the posture, in the pace. So how do you practice this in your daily life? Start by noticing. That's the first step. Notice how often your movements get ahead of your thoughts. Notice how fast you tap your fingers when you're bored, or how you bounce your knee when you're nervous, or how quickly you reach for your phone just to fill silence. None of that is evil, but none of it is controlled either. And uncontrolled movement always costs you something, even if it's subtle. Now, don't try to freeze yourself. You're not here to be stiff. You're here to move with awareness. That's the difference. Instead of snatching your glass, reach for it calmly. Instead of slamming your car door, close it quietly. Instead of rushing to speak, pause before you open your mouth. Let your body match your mind. Let your motion reflect your message. Try this. Walk through your home slowly. Pick something up and set it down like it matters, not dramatically, just with care. You'll feel it. That shift, that intention, that sense of grounded presence. And once you feel it, others will too. People are drawn to those who move like they're not in a hurry to prove anything, because those people seem rooted. They seem like they've already decided who they are and don't need to act out to show it. Now take that into public spaces, into meetings, into conversations. Let your pace be steady. Let your gestures be minimal but meaningful. When others get loud, stay calm. When they start fidgeting, stay still. When they rush to react, wait. Remember, motion reveals emotion, and your goal is not to suppress your emotion, but to master it. To be so tuned in that even the way you place your hands on a table shows presence. Even the way you open a bottle says, I am in control of myself. It's a quiet discipline, and that's why it works. Because people won't always realize what they're responding to, but they will feel it. Your body, your movements, your rhythm, it all speaks before you say a word. And if it all speaks calmly, steadily, with no signs of inner chaos, people will trust you. They'll take you seriously. They'll feel safer around you, because people crave stability, and you become that stability. This is not about trying to look cool. It's not about putting on a performance. It's about aligning your outer world with your inner strength, so that every movement becomes a reflection of your self-control, so that your presence does more than your words ever could. So the next time you walk into a room, or sit at a table, or take a sip of water, slow down. Move like someone who has nothing to prove. Move like someone whose peace doesn't depend on the pace of the world around them. And let that rhythm become your silent signature. Because in a world addicted to speed, the one who moves with calm becomes the one who leads with power. Number 5. Own space through invisible framing. You don't have to be loud to be noticed. You don't have to take space by force to own it. In fact, the people who are most respected rarely fight for space at all. They simply exist within it, fully, calmly, and with intention. They don't shrink themselves. They don't hunch over, fold in, or hover nervously at the edges. They align, they center, they frame the space around them without trying to dominate it. And people feel that, even if they can't explain it. This is what invisible framing means. It's the ability to step into a room or a conversation and be present enough that the room adjusts around you, not the other way around. You don't have to sprawl across a couch or puff out your chest. You don't need to exaggerate your size. You just have to stop apologizing for being there, because that's what most people are doing, whether they know it or not. They sit too small. They avoid the center of a room. They speak with their shoulders instead of their voice, and all of that signals the same thing. I don't feel like I belong here. But you're not here to shrink. You're not here to ask permission. You're here to own your space, not with noise or ego, but with alignment and awareness. That's what Stoics understood. They didn't demand attention. They embodied presence. Marcus Aurelius didn't walk into rooms needing others to move, but people moved anyway. Not because he forced them, but because he carried himself like someone who had already claimed his space. So how do you do this? You start by becoming aware of your positioning. How are you standing when you're in a group? Are you pressed to the edge? Are you leaning in as if asking to be included? Or are you calmly positioned, shoulders relaxed, spine straight, planted like you belong where you are? Next, notice how you sit. Are you sitting like you're trying not to disturb anyone? Or are you aligned with the space, feet grounded, arms resting naturally, back supported, gaze level? You don't need to sprawl or spread. You just need to stop folding in. When your body folds, your energy folds. And when your energy folds, people sense hesitation. This isn't about being big. It's about being deliberate, about letting your posture say, "This is my space, and I'm not leaving unless I choose to." It's standing in the middle of a room with no fear. It's leaning against a wall like you belong there. It's entering a space and aligning your form, not shrinking, not inflating, just standing with intention. Invisible framing also means using your environment. If you sit at a table, let your arms rest naturally, confidently. If you're standing by a chair, position your body so you're not half in, half out of the space. Line yourself with edges, frames, objects, not to dominate, but to feel centered. The more centered you feel, the more centered others feel around you. And here's the powerful truth. People instinctively adjust themselves around someone who's aligned. They'll move over. They'll give you space. They'll look at you when they speak. Not because you demanded it, but because your body language quietly told them, "This space is already mine." That's respect without effort. That's leadership without a word. Now here's something to watch out for. Don't confuse invisible framing with arrogance. This isn't about taking up more space than you need. It's about fully occupying the space that's already yours. There's a difference. The person who sprawls is trying to convince others they're important. The person who aligns is simply being important. One is noise, the other is signal. You'll also notice something interesting. When you own your space calmly, people speak to you differently. They approach you differently. They respect your presence, not because you were the loudest, but because you were the most centered. And that kind of presence is felt before it's seen. So next time you walk into a room, check your posture. Don't shrink. Don't overcompensate. Just align. Walk to the center if it makes sense. Sit with intention if there's a chair. Lean with ease if there's a wall. Let your body say, "I'm not here to take space, I'm here to own it." And the room will adjust. This is how a Stoic moves through the world. Without exaggeration, without apology, just calm, steady alignment. Not reacting to the space, but quietly defining it. Because when you frame your space with presence, people feel it. They shift, they pause, they make room, not because you forced them, but because your stillness said more than your voice ever could. Number 6. Master the controlled non-reaction. Not everything needs your response. Not everything deserves your energy. The person who reacts to everything, every sound, every word, every shift in mood, is giving away pieces of themselves without realizing it. They flinch when there's a loud noise. They laugh too quickly at a joke that isn't funny. They wince at discomfort, and without saying a word, they reveal something. They are easy to move. And when you are easy to move, you are easy to read, easy to control, easy to dismiss. But the person who stays still in the face of discomfort, the one who doesn't blink when insulted, the one who sits calm while others spiral, or who hears gossip and doesn't even shift their expression, that person becomes a center of gravity. People feel it instantly. Something in their nervous system says, "This one is different." The room begins to orbit around them, not because they're loud, but because they are unshakable. That's the power of the controlled non-reaction. It's not about being cold. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about knowing that your attention, your energy, your expression, those are yours. You don't give them away cheaply. You don't let other people yank them out of you. You choose when to respond. And even more powerfully, you choose when not to. Stoicism has always taught this. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That is what the non-reaction is, strength, not in action, but in stillness, in the pause, in the restraint. The world today moves fast. It rewards the quick reply, the instant opinion, the sharp comeback. But here's the truth. Those who cannot pause cannot lead. Those who cannot absorb discomfort without reacting cannot be trusted with real power. Because real power is calm, it's quiet, it's built on the ability to choose your moment. Practice this. Next time something surprising happens, don't move right away. You hear a crash, you get bad news. Someone says something awkward. Your instinct will be to react, to flinch, to laugh nervously, to speak quickly just to fill the space. Don't. Wait. Breathe. Let the moment pass through you like wind through trees. Let your stillness speak first, not your voice, not your face. People will notice, not always consciously, but deeply. They'll feel safer around you. They'll begin to rely on you, look to you, lean on you. Because your calm becomes their calm, and your presence, even in silence, becomes a source of confidence for others. But this doesn't mean you suppress everything. It doesn't mean you go numb. A Stoic doesn't deny emotion. They control the expression of it. You feel everything, but you are ruled by nothing. The non-reaction is not emptiness. It's self-governance. It says, I decide how I show up. Not my fear, not my ego, not the moment. In conversations, especially tense ones, this is where you stand out. When someone insults you and you don't blink. When someone brags and you don't rush to match them. When awkward silence fills the room and you sit with it, unbothered. That's presence. That's strength. And people respect that far more than any clever comeback. It's the same with gossip. When others speak behind someone's back, watch how quickly people laugh or add something just to stay included. But if you remain neutral, expression still, body relaxed, you signal something rare. You're not looking to belong through drama, you belong to yourself. And the beautiful part? You don't need to correct anyone. You don't need to say, that's inappropriate, or I'm above this. Your stillness says it for you. Your lack of reaction becomes the statement. And it's far more powerful than any speech. Even in positive situations, the non-reaction has power. You receive a compliment, you nod, you thank, but you don't cling to it. You don't light up like it's the first validation you've ever had. That shows self-possession. That shows inner abundance. You're grateful, but not hungry for praise. And that's magnetic. People start to treat you like someone with depth, like someone who knows. Because if you're not reacting to everything, they assume you must be seeing something more. You must understand more. And in many cases, you do. Because your pause gives you time to see what others miss. So next time someone tries to get a rise out of you, don't give it. Next time life throws you something jarring, pause. Wait. Let it settle before you choose your move. That moment of stillness is where power lives. Not because you're hiding, but because you're deciding. This is what makes leaders. This is what earns respect. Not fast words, not big emotions, but the ability to hold your center when everything else is spinning. So when the world comes at you fast, don't flinch, don't rush, don't crack. Be the one who absorbs the hit and stays standing, not out of pride, not out of ego, but out of principle, because your energy is yours, and not everything deserves a reaction. Number 7. Let silence be your signature. There is nothing louder than silence when it's used with intention. In every room, in every conversation, there's usually someone speaking, someone reacting, someone trying to fill the air. But the person who doesn't rush to speak, the one who listens fully, absorbs deeply, and chooses their words with care, that person carries a different kind of power. They don't need to fight for space because they already own it. They don't need to interrupt because they're not trying to be heard, they're trying to understand. And when they do finally speak, the room listens. That's the kind of silence that becomes a signature, a statement, a presence, not the silence of fear, not the silence of insecurity, but the silence of someone who knows they don't need to perform, the silence of someone who could speak but chooses not to. That kind of silence commands a room without lifting a finger. It shifts attention without making a sound. It's not just impressive, it's magnetic. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fill it. After a compliment, they feel the need to return one. After a pause, they feel pressure to say something. Even in arguments, they talk just to maintain control of the moment. But silence is control, when it's rooted in calm awareness. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we should be tolerant with others and strict with ourselves. Part of that is knowing when to stay silent, not out of fear, but out of clarity. Because sometimes the strongest response is no response. Sometimes the deepest insight comes not from what you say, but from what you don't say. When you hold silence in a conversation, people feel it. They feel the weight of it, the space it creates, the expectation it carries. And most of all, they wonder what you're thinking. That curiosity makes your next word worth more. Because when you're not constantly talking, every word becomes a choice. And people respect those who speak from thought, not from habit. So what does this look like in practice? When someone compliments you, pause, smile maybe, nod, let the silence breathe. You don't have to deflect it. You don't have to explain it. Just receive it. And in doing so, show that you're not starved for approval. You appreciate it, but you don't need it. When someone says something provocative, pause. Don't jump in. Let the silence make them sit with their own words. Often they'll say more. Often they'll reveal more than they intended. But if you fill the silence too quickly, you lose that power. And when someone expects you to validate them, to say, yes, you're right, or that's amazing, don't rush. Let the silence speak first, not in a way that dismisses them, but in a way that reminds them your approval is not automatic, it's earned. This kind of silence isn't passive, it's active. It listens, it watches, it studies, and when it does speak, it hits different. Because it's not noise, it's signal. It's not chatter, it's clarity. Even in group settings, meetings, conversations, crowded rooms, the person who doesn't speak just to speak, who waits, who watches, who stays calm even when the energy gets loud, becomes the one everyone looks to. Why? Because silence gives weight, and presence doesn't come from how often you speak, but from how intentional you are when you do. Now, this doesn't mean you become mute. It doesn't mean you sit in silence just to look mysterious. That's not Stoicism, that's theater. The goal isn't to be quiet for effect. The goal is to speak from purpose, to talk only when there's something real to say, when silence can't carry it better. People often ask, how do I become more respected without forcing it? This is one of the answers. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Let your pauses carry meaning. Let your restraint create space. Because people remember those who make them think, not those who never stop talking. When others speak over each other, when noise rises, when the need to be seen drives people to fill every second with words, you wait, you breathe, you observe. You speak only when silence has done its part, and only if your words add value. That's how leaders speak. That's how respected people move. Because in the end, silence is not a weakness. It's a signal of self-possession. It says, I'm not here to compete for attention. I'm not here to impress you. I'm already anchored. So make silence your signature. Let it define your presence. Let it speak before you do. Because the more comfortable you are with silence, the more powerful every word you do speak becomes. And eventually, people won't just listen to your words, they'll listen to your pauses, they'll feel the weight of your stillness, and they'll follow the one who doesn't need the spotlight, because they are the gravity. You don't need to raise your voice to raise your value. Respect isn't earned through noise, it's earned through presence. And today, you've seen exactly how that's done. You've learned how to master stillness when others twitch, how to move with purpose instead of impulse, how to let your gaze observe rather than perform, how to hold posture like you belong in every room you enter. You've learned the power of a delayed breath, a non-reaction, a silent moment that speaks louder than any word could. These 7 habits aren't tricks, they're tools. Tools to train your mind, sharpen your presence, and walk through life like someone who doesn't chase respect because they command it. Now, here's your move. Drop a comment and write this. I lead with presence, not performance. I am stoic. Not just for us, for you. Writing it is an act of reinforcement. It's how your mind begins to remember the message your body is learning to carry. And if this kind of content speaks to something deeper in you, subscribe, not just for videos, but for the quiet reminders that help you sharpen your edge and walk through life with gravity, clarity, and discipline. Your silence is speaking. Make sure it says something powerful. Have you ever said something and instantly wished you could rewind time? We've all had those moments when the words leave your mouth and immediately feel like arrows you can't retrieve. But what if you could gain full control over your speech, ensuring that every word you utter radiates wisdom, grace, and inner strength? That's exactly the path we're exploring today. 6 things an intelligent person never says, all deeply rooted in the enduring teachings of Stoic philosophy. Stoicism reminds us that our words are far more than just sounds. They are outward expressions of our intellect and the values we hold. From steering clear of hollow bragging to understanding the quiet power of silence, these principles don't just refine how you speak, they shape your identity. The beauty of this journey is that by the end of it, you'll gain practical takeaways you can immediately use to enhance your speech, whether you're communicating in the workplace, engaging in personal conversations, or even navigating your own inner thoughts. So, prepare yourself. This isn't merely about refining your vocabulary. It's about recognizing how your words contribute to the person you're becoming. Stay with us, because what's coming next could fundamentally shift how you perceive the power of speech. Let's begin with a crucial truth. Avoid boasting about your knowledge. Have you ever encountered someone who constantly talks about how much they know or what they've achieved? They'll go on about the lessons they've learned, the books they've read, and all the things they've mastered. At first, you might find their knowledge impressive, even inspiring. But as time goes on, that admiration can fade, replaced by a sense of emotional distance, not because their insights lack value, but because their delivery feels more like a performance than a conversation. In Stoicism, there's a strong emphasis on quiet wisdom. Marcus Aurelius once reflected that nature never boasts about what it creates, and we shouldn't take credit for our wisdom either. This isn't just a poetic notion, it's a way of living. I remember a story about a friend of mine, John. He was an incredibly knowledgeable individual, especially in the tech world. Whether in meetings or social gatherings, John always aimed to be the smartest voice in the room. He'd mention the high-level projects he led, the complex technologies he mastered, and the numerous accolades he received. Initially, people admired him. But with time, conversations with John began to feel one-sided, as if everything was about showcasing his intellect rather than connecting with others. Eventually, one of his colleagues approached him and gave him some honest feedback. They told him that while his expertise was undeniable, the way he presented it often made others feel excluded. That moment was a wake-up call for John. He came to understand that his attempts to impress were actually creating distance between him and those around him. This is a pitfall many fall into without realizing. When you feel the urge to highlight your knowledge or accomplishments, pause and examine your intent. Are you sharing to genuinely contribute something meaningful, or are you seeking admiration and validation? If it's the latter, it may be time to rethink your approach. Boasting diminishes the power of your words. Instead of building bridges, it can erect invisible walls, making others feel as if they're being compared or judged. What may have begun as an effort to inspire can end up alienating the very people you hoped to influence. Stoic philosophy offers a meaningful path forward. First, let your actions be louder than your words. When you truly possess knowledge, it naturally reveals itself through the quality of your work and the way you navigate challenges. Next, embrace humility. Being humble doesn't mean hiding your talents. It means allowing others to recognize your worth through real experiences and genuine interactions. And finally, cultivate the habit of listening. Listening not only helps you learn from others, but it also shows them respect and strengthens your ability to form meaningful connections. To the Stoics, listening is a form of silence that holds immense power. Silence isn't a sign of ignorance. It reflects inner strength, patience, and understanding. John eventually came to understand this profound truth. Over time, he stopped centering conversations around himself and started genuinely engaging with the thoughts and experiences of others. He went from trying to control conversations to quietly contributing and valuing the voices around him. Gradually, people began to gravitate toward him, not only because of his knowledge, but because of the integrity, warmth, and sense of collaboration he brought into every space. He came to embody the idea that wisdom isn't something you boast about, it's something you share in a way that uplifts others. Choosing not to brag doesn't mean withholding your insights or knowledge. It means learning to share them in a way that honors the contributions of others and creates a sense of mutual respect. Stoicism teaches that our words are mirrors of our character. When you choose humility instead of arrogance, you don't just grow as a person. You create space for those around you to grow as well. So take a moment and ask yourself, what do your words say about who you are? That answer will define the course of your personal and emotional growth. Now let's turn to another important truth. Never dismiss the opinions of others. Have you ever shared an idea only to have it brushed aside before you could fully express it? It's a frustrating and disheartening experience, one that can make you question your worth and the value of your thoughts. Sadly, I know this feeling not just from being on the receiving end, but from being the one responsible for causing it. Early on in a leadership role, I prided myself on my quick thinking and decision-making. During a team meeting, one of my colleagues offered a suggestion to improve how we managed our workflow. Without pausing to reflect, I interrupted and rejected the idea, labeling it as unworkable. I believed I was saving time and being efficient, but I failed to notice the sudden silence that fell over the room, the exchanged glances, the loss of enthusiasm, and how the rest of the meeting passed without any more ideas being offered. Later, a trusted colleague pulled me aside and gently said, "Maybe you could have listened a little longer. That idea wasn't as off base as it first sounded." That moment stopped me in my tracks. It wasn't just a missed opportunity. It was a moment that revealed I had created an atmosphere where people no longer felt safe or encouraged to speak freely. Stoicism teaches that wisdom is rooted in openness, not in assuming you have all the answers. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You cannot learn what you think you already know." When you dismiss someone's perspective before understanding it, you're not just closing yourself off to potentially valuable insights, you're also weakening the trust and connection within your relationships. The cost isn't just a lost idea, it's the erosion of collaboration and team spirit. From that experience, I learned to approach conversations differently. In future meetings, I reminded myself that listening doesn't mean agreeing. It simply means showing respect and being open to new possibilities. Even if an idea didn't seem promising at first, I chose to remain curious instead of critical. To my surprise, when I made space for others to speak freely, my team began offering innovative solutions, ideas I would never have thought of on my own. Here's a mindset shift that helped me. Instead of immediately trying to challenge or disprove an idea, I started asking myself, what can I learn from this? Even when a suggestion seemed flawed or off track at first glance, it often contained a seed of insight. And even if the idea ultimately didn't work, I still gained valuable perspective into how someone else was interpreting the issue. That deeper understanding on its own held real worth. Another key principle is practicing humility. Stoic teachings remind us that we are not the center of the universe. When we disregard someone else's opinion, what we're really doing is elevating our own viewpoint above all others, as if we alone hold the ultimate truth. But the reality is, no single person, no matter how experienced or intelligent, has all the answers. Genuine wisdom comes from collaboration, from the thoughtful exchange of different perspectives and experiences. After shifting my approach, I noticed a change in the dynamic of our meetings. I began asking more questions instead of making statements. I made a conscious effort to invite even the quietest voices into the conversation. The effect was powerful. Not only did our ideas improve, but the entire team started to feel more valued and engaged. It became clear to me that everyone, in their own way, had something important to offer, something I had been blind to because of my own impatience and overconfidence. Ultimately, refusing to dismiss others' opinions isn't just about being polite. It's a smart, strategic move. When you show respect for the perspectives around you, you unlock a wealth of insights, creativity, and opportunity. You build trust, and you cultivate an atmosphere where real innovation has space to thrive. As the Stoics believed, wisdom isn't about always being right. It's about recognizing that everyone, in their own unique way, carries a piece of the truth, and that at its core is what true wisdom is all about. Now, let's explore another powerful insight. Refrain from complaining without purpose. Picture someone like Peter, a seasoned professional in midlife, juggling a demanding job, family responsibilities, and the everyday frustrations that life throws his way. Peter has plenty on his plate, and like many, he faces stress and setbacks. But instead of approaching these issues constructively, Peter has slipped into a habit of constant complaining. From grumbling about co-workers not pulling their weight to venting about the broken coffee machine in the office, Peter's frustrations seem never-ending. At first, his co-workers were understanding. They listened, even offered solutions. But as time passed and Peter's complaints continued without change, the atmosphere around him began to shift. Conversations with him became draining. People started keeping their distance, not because they didn't care, but because they felt emotionally exhausted by the endless negativity. One day, during a lunch break, a friend spoke up with a simple yet piercing question. "Peter, I get that you're frustrated, but what are you actually doing to fix any of this?" That moment stuck with Peter. It forced him to reflect. He came to realize that he wasn't genuinely trying to improve anything. He was simply venting, letting his frustration spiral unchecked. Worse yet, this pattern of complaining wasn't just pushing others away. It was reinforcing his own feelings of powerlessness and dissatisfaction. This kind of situation is more common than we'd like to admit. It's easy to slip into the routine of voicing complaints without thinking about how it affects those around us, or how it keeps us stuck in a negative mindset. Stoic philosophy offers a clear and powerful remedy. Focus your energy on what you can control and let go of what you cannot. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most respected voices, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When we constantly complain about things beyond our influence, we only amplify our sense of helplessness. It becomes a cycle, a loop of frustration that drains our energy and our hope. However, it's important to understand that not all complaints are inherently negative. When expressed with intention and directed toward a solution, they can actually inspire meaningful change. The problem arises when complaints lack purpose, when they're unfocused, habitual, and ultimately unproductive. In those cases, they become mere background noise, empty expressions that drain energy and resolve absolutely nothing. Think about it. Complaining about traffic doesn't make the cars disappear, and venting about the weather won't stop the rain from falling. People who think wisely recognize this distinction and choose to invest their emotional and mental energy into what genuinely makes a difference. So how can you escape the cycle of pointless complaining? Begin with a simple but powerful question whenever you feel frustration building. What can I do about this? If the honest answer is nothing, then it's time to release it. Complaining about circumstances beyond your control not only wastes precious time, but it also chips away at your inner peace. Instead, redirect that energy towards something meaningful. Take time to read, reflect, or express gratitude for the parts of your life that are going well. Another helpful approach is to shift your perspective. Rather than asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" try asking, "What lesson can I draw from this?" Stoic philosophy teaches us that within every challenge lies a potential for personal growth. Complaining clouds our vision, obscuring these valuable lessons, while thoughtful reflection helps us uncover them. Going back to Peter, he took his friend's words to heart and made a conscious effort to change. Instead of fixating on everything that annoyed him about his boss, he started focusing on how he could offer real solutions to the problems at work. Rather than grumbling about traffic during his daily commute, he began using that time to listen to audiobooks or practice mindfulness. Slowly but steadily, his mindset began to shift. His language became more thoughtful and purposeful, no longer tainted by constant negativity. People noticed. His relationships improved, and his co-workers started turning to him for advice and support, drawn to the calm, solution-oriented attitude he now embodied. At its core, learning to refrain from meaningless complaints is an act of empowerment. When you put your attention on what's within your control, you fortify your mind and expand your influence. Stoic wisdom reminds us that our words and thoughts are tools, and when we use them intentionally, they can help us build a life rooted in resilience, clarity, and genuine connection. By releasing empty grievances and embracing purposeful action, you don't just change the way others see you, you begin to reshape your own experience of life. Now, let's turn to another important principle: making no empty promises. Promises carry a particular significance in our lives. They create expectations, foster trust, and define the bonds we have with others. And yet, how often do we catch ourselves making promises casually, without fully considering whether we can actually keep them? Though often made with good intentions, this habit can slowly wear down our credibility and damage our relationships. Stoic philosophy places great emphasis on the harmony between our words and our deeds. Integrity, in the Stoic view, isn't found in saying many things. It's found in consistently following through on what we do say. Take, for example, a man named Greg. He's in his 50s, juggling a demanding career and a full family life. Greg means well, but he has a tendency to overpromise. He often assures his team that he'll review their reports by a specific date, or tells his family he'll be home in time for dinner, only to miss those marks again and again. Initially, people gave Greg the benefit of the doubt, assuming he was just overwhelmed by his busy schedule. But as more and more promises went unfulfilled, frustration began to grow. His colleagues started second-guessing his commitments, and his family grew tired of the repeated letdowns. What once were trusted words began to lose their impact, gradually taking on an undertone of doubt and disappointment. One evening, after missing yet another family gathering, Greg returned home to find a note left on his desk by his teenage daughter. It read simply, "We just want you to mean it when you say it." That message hit him harder than any missed deadline or disappointed co-worker ever had. It forced Greg to confront the reality that, despite his good intentions, his repeated failure to follow through was undermining the very trust and respect he had worked so hard to build. This story brings to light an essential teaching from Stoic philosophy: speak with purpose and act with integrity. Marcus Aurelius once offered the simple yet profound advice: let your words be plain and true. His message is a reminder that promises should not be used to placate others in the moment. They are meaningful commitments that reflect our character. When we make a promise and fail to fulfill it, even unintentionally, it's like writing a check that our integrity can't cover. So how can we prevent ourselves from making promises we can't keep, while still nurturing trust and strong relationships? It begins with a pause before we commit. Ask yourself, do I genuinely have the time, the resources, and the mental energy to fulfill this promise? If the answer is uncertain, it is far better to be transparent and set realistic expectations than to risk disappointing others with an empty assurance. For example, rather than saying, "I'll definitely have this ready by tomorrow," consider saying, "I'll aim to have it ready by tomorrow, but if I need a bit more time, I'll let you know." Another helpful practice is to deliberately under-promise and over-deliver. By setting achievable goals and sometimes exceeding them, you avoid the sting of disappointment and instead build a reputation for consistency and reliability. Imagine Greg telling his team he would need 3 days to review their reports, then handing them in after only 2. That quiet act speaks louder than grand declarations. It reflects not only competence, but also care and dependability. And finally, embrace accountability. If you ever find yourself unable to keep a commitment, don't dodge the consequences. Face the situation directly. Offer a sincere apology, give a brief explanation if necessary, and suggest a practical way forward. This response not only helps repair any damage, but also shows deep respect for the other person's time, trust, and expectations. Greg took these lessons seriously. He began evaluating his commitments more thoughtfully, saying no when he couldn't give a wholehearted yes, and ensuring he followed through when he did make a promise. Over time, his co-workers began to trust him again, and his family started recognizing his efforts as genuine and heartfelt. Even more importantly, Greg noticed a shift within himself. A calm confidence that came from knowing his words meant something and that his actions truly backed them up. Ultimately, avoiding empty promises is not about striving for perfection. It's about striving for authenticity and reliability. Stoicism teaches us that real strength is found in living with integrity, where what we say and what we do are in harmony. When we make this a priority, we not only earn the respect of others, but we also cultivate relationships that are deeper, more sincere, and built on mutual trust. Because at the end of the day, it's not the promises we make that define who we are. It's the ones we keep. Before we continue with the next insight, if you're finding value in this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Make sure the notification bell is turned on so you never miss future content. If you're as inspired by this wisdom as I am, drop a comment below saying, "I love this wisdom." Now, let's move on to the next lesson. Don't deny your mistakes. Have you ever felt like admitting a mistake is the same as revealing your flaws to the world, opening yourself up to judgment and criticism? I used to carry that fear too, until one transformative experience completely changed the way I saw things. Through the lens of Stoic philosophy, I came to understand that acknowledging your mistakes doesn't reduce your value. It actually elevates you. It reveals a person who is courageous, honest, and committed to growth. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If someone is able to prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I will gladly change, for it is the truth I seek, and the truth never harmed anyone." This wisdom reveals a powerful Stoic truth. Admitting when we are wrong isn't a sign of weakness. It's a reflection of strength and a deep commitment to truth. Let me share a personal experience that brought this lesson to life for me. A few years ago, I was in charge of a significant project at work. Pressed by a tight deadline, I rushed through the final stages and overlooked several important details in a critical report. Unfortunately, those errors didn't go unnoticed. When the report was reviewed by upper management, my team faced direct criticism for the inaccuracies. At first, my instinct was to defend myself, to blame the overwhelming workload, the unrealistic timeline, or even external factors, anything but myself. But deep down, I knew that kind of excuse-making would only damage the trust and respect I had built with my team. So instead, I made a conscious choice to face the truth. At our next team meeting, I openly acknowledged the mistake, took full responsibility, apologized, and outlined concrete steps I would take to ensure it wouldn't happen again. To my surprise, their response wasn't anger or judgment. Instead, they appreciated my honesty. A few team members even thanked me for owning up to the mistake and showing accountability. That moment changed my perspective forever. I realized that acknowledging my fault didn't diminish my credibility. It actually made me more trustworthy in their eyes. Why is owning up to mistakes such a powerful act? Because it breaks down walls of defensiveness and builds bridges of trust. When you accept responsibility, you demonstrate that truth matters more to you than your pride. It sends a clear message that you are someone who values integrity, and that creates an environment where others feel safe to be honest, to admit their own mistakes, and to work together on solutions. But let's be honest, admitting a mistake is rarely easy. There's always the fear of being judged or losing respect. Yet ask yourself, does denying a mistake that others clearly see improve your reputation? Or does it simply make you appear less reliable? The courage to acknowledge your missteps is a true mark of inner strength. It shows that you are not afraid of growth and that you are committed to becoming better. So how can you begin to apply this principle in your own life? Start with self-awareness. When a situation doesn't go as planned, resist the urge to shift blame. Instead, pause and ask yourself, what role did I play in this? Even if your part was small, owning it is the beginning of finding a solution. Then, focus not just on apologizing, but on making things right. Show through your actions that you are committed to correcting the mistake and improving in the future. Stoic philosophy teaches that our mistakes are not marks of failure. They are stepping stones to personal growth. Those who are brave enough to admit their faults not only better themselves, but also inspire those around them. When you face your mistakes with openness and resolve, you're not just earning respect, you're building lasting trust. So the next time you stumble, don't run from it. Don't mask it with excuses. Take a moment, accept responsibility, and commit to doing better moving forward. Because the courage to admit your mistakes is what truly sets you apart, and it's what earns you lasting respect. Now, let's continue with another important Stoic lesson. Don't overshare your future plans. The Stoics often reminded us that keeping our promises isn't simply about following through. It's about safeguarding our integrity and honoring the trust of others. When we casually make promises, even small ones, and fail to keep them, we slowly erode our credibility and the confidence others have in us. Let me introduce you to someone whose story might sound familiar. His name is Jim, a middle-aged professional known for his friendly, agreeable nature. He had a reputation for being generous with his time and always willing to lend a hand. Whether it was helping a friend move, volunteering for an extra task at work, or committing to attend every local event, Jim had a standard reply: "Sure, count me in." But as the demands of life increased, family responsibilities, work deadlines, personal obligations, Jim's well-meaning promises began to stack up. Slowly, those commitments slipped through the cracks. He started forgetting appointments, missing deadlines, and disappointing the very people he wanted to support. This scenario is a reflection of a trap many of us fall into. Sometimes we agree to things we can't truly commit to because we don't want to disappoint someone in the moment, or we simply want to be seen as helpful and agreeable. But the teachings of the Stoics warn us against this. Words, they said, must be intentional and backed by action. Marcus Aurelius offered a clear standard to live by when he said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This serves as a reminder that our words should come from a place of authenticity and thoughtfulness. Agreeing to something half-heartedly often stems from a fear of letting others down. But ironically, the greater harm comes from not honoring that commitment. The sting of disappointment cuts much deeper when people feel misled or forgotten. So, how can we avoid falling into the trap of making promises we can't keep? It begins with a pause. Before you agree to any request, take a moment to consider whether it aligns with your current priorities and whether you can realistically follow through. If the answer is no, a kind but honest refusal is often far more valuable than an insincere yes that never becomes reality. People may not always like hearing no, but they will respect your honesty and the clarity it brings. Another important mindset shift is learning to value depth over breadth. It's better to say yes to fewer things and do them with excellence than to overextend yourself and disappoint others. When you commit to something, do it with focus and genuine intention. This builds a reputation for being dependable and thoughtful, someone whose word means something. Equally important is understanding that saying no is not a selfish act. It's an expression of self-awareness. The Stoics emphasize the importance of focusing on what is within your control. When you stretch yourself too thin, you dilute your ability to follow through on the things that matter most. But when you choose your commitments carefully and fulfill them with integrity, you protect both your energy and your credibility. As Jim reflected on his moment of realization, he began to make meaningful changes. He became more selective in what he agreed to, no longer saying yes just to avoid awkwardness. He started prioritizing the commitments that truly mattered and made sure to honor them fully. With time, those around him noticed the change. His relationships improved, not because he was always available, but because when he made a promise, he kept it. And that reliability became the foundation of their respect for him. Ultimately, avoiding empty promises is about much more than just following through. It's about aligning your words with your values. It's about building deeper, more authentic relationships through honesty, intention, and follow-through. The Stoics teach us that every word we speak shapes how others perceive us and, just as importantly, how we perceive ourselves. So the next time someone asks you for a commitment, don't answer on autopilot. Take a moment, breathe, reflect, and only give your word if it's a promise you know you can keep. That kind of mindfulness isn't just practical, it's powerful. It's a reflection of strength and wisdom. I'd love to hear about your own journey and the lessons you've learned along the way. If this video resonated with you, please hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and leave a comment below. Share your experiences, your victories, or even the challenges you've faced. And if you're not sure what to say, just type "I love this" to let me know you've made it to the end of this session. Your participation helps this community grow, fostering a space where wisdom and transformation are shared. I'll leave 2 more videos right here so you can keep learning and growing. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. How many times have you found yourself holding back your true feelings, forcing a smile, and staying silent when you knew you shouldn't have? How often have you heard the phrase, "It's just a joke," while inside you were fuming, your blood boiling from the frustration of not being taken seriously? Enough is enough. It's time to stop tolerating behaviors that chip away at your peace of mind. Let's be clear. There are certain things you should never allow, not from anyone, ever. That includes disrespect, manipulation, and those venom-laced jokes that come disguised as concern. The Stoics understood that while we cannot control the actions of others, we absolutely can control how we respond to them. And believe me, each passive-aggressive jab, every little slight you silently endure, slowly erodes your dignity. And that, my friend, is not something you should offer up for sacrifice. So, are we going to keep swallowing poison in silence, or are we finally going to start drawing boundaries? The truth is, we must stop accepting the unacceptable. And that's exactly why, in today's video, I'm sharing 10 situations that you should never tolerate, no matter who it comes from. And trust me, the final one will leave you speechless. But before we dive into the list, let me tell you a story that will help illuminate the wisdom behind what we're discussing. In a small riverside village, there lived a young woman named Clara. She was kind, always ready to lend a hand, and much loved by the people in her community. But as time passed, Clara began to realize that her kindness was being exploited. One neighbor constantly demanded favors without offering gratitude or reciprocation. A so-called friend criticized her every decision, slowly eroding her confidence. At work, her boss ignored her accomplishments, making her feel invisible and undervalued. One particularly draining day, overwhelmed by emotional exhaustion and constant criticism, Clara decided to take a walk through the woods. As she wandered, she stumbled upon a small cabin where a wise old woman lived. Clara, weighed down by her burdens, opened up and shared her struggles with the old woman. The wise woman listened intently, then calmly told her, "There are behaviors that you must never tolerate, no matter how kind-hearted you are. Do not let people treat you like a tool they can pick up and put down when it suits them. Respect is not something to timidly request. It is something to firmly demand." Clara looked at her, intrigued. The old woman continued, "Just as a tree needs space to grow strong, you need boundaries to protect your spirit. If you let others prune your branches and rip off your leaves, eventually you'll be too drained to stand. You have the power to choose what you allow and what you reject." These words echoed in Clara's mind as she returned to the village. The next day, when her neighbor tried to exploit her generosity again, Clara kindly but firmly said no. To her critical friend, she responded that those negative opinions didn't define her worth. At work, she began standing up for her achievements and asserting her value. Over time, Clara felt stronger, more self-assured, and gradually, her environment began to reflect that change. The lesson here is simple but powerful. Kindness is a virtue, but so is self-respect. You should never allow behaviors that diminish you or make you feel small. Setting boundaries and demanding respect is not arrogance, it's self-love and dignity in action. Before we continue, if you find value in these videos, I invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Let's get into it. Let's begin with disrespect. This is one thing that should never be negotiable in your life. Your dignity is sacred. We often assume respect will be given to us, but unfortunately, that's not always the case, and that's where the problem begins. How many times have you swallowed your words, taken a deep breath, and brushed off that one comment that hit you like a sting in the middle of summer? You know the one. The remark cloaked in just joking or constructive feedback, but really, it was meant to undermine you. Let's talk seriously about disrespect. It's something everyone encounters, whether at work, within personal relationships, or even within families. No one is immune to people who try to belittle who we are. The saddest part, we often allow it, treating it like it's normal. But it's not. It never should be. Sometimes disrespect comes with a smile. Those seemingly harmless, passive-aggressive phrases like, "Sure, you can do it," or "Why do you even try?" may sound trivial, but they cut deep. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes crucial. The Stoics taught us that while we cannot control the actions or thoughts of others, we can control our own reactions. So ask yourself, will you remain silent while others determine your worth? Now let's talk about those so-called jokes that are really veiled insults. How many times have you been hurt by a comment only to be told it was just a joke? As if that gives someone a free pass to say whatever they want without consequences, and if you speak up, suddenly you lack a sense of humor. But here's the truth. The problem isn't you. It's the toxic culture that uses just a joke to justify cruelty. You have every right to draw a line. If something isn't funny to you, you can say so, and you can walk away without feeling guilty. That's real self-control. That's dignity. Then there's the subtle kind of disrespect that pretends to be concern. You've seen it, the people who criticize your choices, question your path, and chip away at your confidence, all under the banner of caring. Don't let it fool you. This is not love. This is control. And it's your responsibility to recognize it and push back. Your self-worth is not on the auction block. You don't need anyone's validation to know your own value or to make your own decisions. Learning to identify these toxic behaviors isn't always easy because they're often masked. Contempt doesn't always come in the form of an obvious insult. It can be quiet, sly, and deeply damaging. But once you recognize it, your next step is to stop tolerating it. You don't have to be aggressive, but you do need to be firm. As the Stoics said, you can't control other people's words or thoughts, but you can control what you allow into your space. Standing firm in your boundaries is the highest form of self-respect. When you respect yourself, you no longer need others to validate you. So don't let anyone define your worth through cruelty, mockery, or thinly veiled jokes. Stay composed, but don't compromise your dignity. This isn't about anger. It's about self-respect. And if someone can't honor your boundaries, they don't deserve a seat at your table. In the end, the only opinion of you that truly matters is your own. And as Carl Jung once said, self-respect is the cornerstone of all respect. Now let's talk about emotional manipulation. Some people behave like puppet masters, tugging at invisible strings and expecting you to dance to their emotional rhythms. And there you are, caught in the middle of their drama, allowing them to dictate when you laugh, cry, or collapse from emotional exhaustion. There are individuals who have mastered the art of emotional manipulation. They're skilled performers who know exactly how to make you feel guilty for their mistakes, burdened by their sadness, and responsible for their happiness. But you are not part of their script, and you don't have to clap for their performance. Let's get real. Picture someone who always breaks down in tears during an argument. Suddenly, your valid points vanish, buried under a mountain of their sorrow, or the person who constantly tells you that you're not doing enough, even after you've given everything. Or maybe it's the one who blames you for their own inability to manage their chaos, acting as though you're the captain of a sinking ship when you're merely a passenger. The Stoics, they emphasize the importance of mastering your own self-control and recognizing that the only thing truly within your power is how you choose to respond to what happens around you. Yes, that even includes refusing to be swept away by the emotional turbulence stirred up by other people. But how does one actually do that? It sounds noble and wise in theory, but when life hits, it's in the practice where things really get messy. Start by identifying the behaviors that are simply unacceptable, those you should never tolerate. For instance, if someone tries to make you feel guilty for having personal boundaries or for voicing your needs, draw a firm line. Your limits exist to protect your peace, not to make others comfortable. If anyone minimizes your accomplishments or implies that your happiness must hinge on their approval, it's time to reevaluate that relationship. In fact, if someone convinces you that love means sacrificing your own mental peace just to maintain their emotional balance, that's your cue to leave, immediately. You are not here to be the superhero in someone else's narrative, especially not when that story never ends with a thank you. The Stoics always taught the power of discerning between what is within our control and what is not. Emotional manipulation is, in many ways, a twisted form of injustice. It makes you believe you are responsible for things that were never yours to carry. Once you start spotting these behaviors and understanding the difference between what belongs to you and what doesn't, you empower yourself to make conscious decisions. And that, my friend, is the first step toward breaking free from those invisible threads that keep you tangled in other people's emotional chaos. When you feel like backing down just to avoid someone's emotional reaction, pause. Breathe. Step back. Ask yourself, is this emotion genuinely mine, or has it been projected onto me? Don't be afraid to assert your boundaries, even if it makes others uncomfortable in the moment. A boundary that causes temporary discomfort is far better than the ongoing pain of living under the shadow of emotional manipulation. You are not an amusement park designed for others to experiment with your emotions at their whim. Emotional manipulation is like a second-rate magician waving flashy tricks to distract you, while you're left wondering where the card disappeared. You were never meant to be anyone's captive audience, nor should your life be dictated by the script of someone seeking control. The Stoics understood this deeply, that real freedom comes from managing your own emotions and not surrendering them to the whims of others. So, cut the cords. Not because you're cold or selfish, but because you finally understand your worth. No one else should play the lead role in your life but you. Let that sink in. When you stop trying to be someone else's hero, you finally step into the role of the main character in your own story. Now, let's talk about something that should never be a gray area: physical or verbal violence. From the very beginning, it must be said, no one has the right to mistreat you. That may sound obvious, but unfortunately for many people, it isn't. Too many of us have normalized the unbearable under the disguise of love, friendship, or worse, the excuse of upbringing. It's time to say enough to abuse, no matter the form. Whether physical or verbal, it should never be accepted. And if someone tells you otherwise, maybe you need to reevaluate your circle, or perhaps your whole environment. Let's break this down further, openly and with a touch of irony, to help digest the undigestible. Physical violence is easy to recognize. If someone hits you, shoves you, or grabs you too forcefully, it's aggression, plain and simple. There are no acceptable excuses. I just lost control, or I was really mad, or even worse, I love you so much I couldn't help it. Those are not reasons. Let's be honest, if your dog jumps with joy every time you come home, that's one thing, because it's a dog. But when a human being uses love as an excuse for violence, they don't need a romantic conversation, they need a lawyer. Then there's verbal abuse, which often wears the mask of honesty. I'm just being real, or that's just how I am. Interesting how these same people can be the sweetest souls at work or around strangers. Funny, isn't it? The truth is, no one who claims to love you should talk down to you, insult you, or chip away at your self-worth. Respect, in this case, should be as essential and invisible as air. The problem is, unlike air, a lack of respect is impossible to ignore. it leaves you breathless. And then we arrive at psychological violence, the most subtle and treacherous of all. This includes emotional manipulation, guilt-tripping, gaslighting, all those sneaky tactics that don't leave visible bruises but wear you down inside. Have you ever walked away from an argument feeling confused, like somehow everything was your fault? Welcome to the realm of master manipulators. Even the most disciplined Stoic would struggle not to lose their composure in such a mental maze. So how do we deal with this? It begins with self-awareness. Truly knowing your worth, not just saying it, but believing it, makes it much easier to recognize when someone has crossed a line. The hard part is that, for many of us, we've been allowing certain behaviors for so long that we can't even tell what's normal and what's toxic anymore. This is where you must pause and reflect. Ask yourself, is this something I really want to continue tolerating? Another essential tool is direct, honest communication. No excuses, no sugarcoating. Saying, "I don't like this," or "I won't accept that," doesn't make you the villain. It makes you someone with dignity. It's like when you're offered a drink you can't stand. You're not going to force it down out of politeness, right? The same rule applies to behaviors that poison your spirit. You have every right to say no, just like you'd turn down bad coffee. You should never feel obligated to tolerate any kind of behavior that makes you question your value. Whether it's physical, verbal, or emotional abuse, life is far too short to keep patching up your self-esteem after every interaction. You deserve relationships where respect isn't a rare commodity, it's the standard. Remember, setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's an act of self-preservation. Only those who truly respect you deserve to stay in your life. As one wise Stoic proverb reminds us, anyone who wounds you under the guise of affection has no idea what real affection is. And then we have to talk about dishonesty, the lies. Have you ever found yourself stuck in a conversation that sounds like the plot of a movie, just without the happy ending? That moment when someone is talking, and despite the smooth delivery, your gut is telling you something's off. Welcome to the exhausting world of chronic dishonesty. Lies, deceit, and half-truths are a deadly cocktail that erode trust faster than you can blink. As much as we want to believe that everyone operates from a place of good intentions, reality proves otherwise. Some people treat deception as a lifestyle. Out of fear, laziness, or sheer pleasure, they build illusions instead of speaking plainly. They tell you what you want to hear, twist the facts to suit their needs, and by the time you realize what's happening, you're lost in a fog of confusion and mistrust. Think of trust as a fragile glass. Each lie, each manipulated truth is like a tiny crack. At first you barely notice them, but those fractures multiply. They deepen, until one day that glass shatters, and no matter how carefully you try to glue it back together, it will never be the same again. So, what do we do? The easy advice would be, walk away from dishonest people. Set boundaries. Don't tolerate that behavior. And yes, that's valid advice. But it's not always so simple. Sometimes the people lying to you are lifelong friends, close family members, or co-workers you can't avoid. Life isn't a light switch you can flick off when things get uncomfortable. Here's where Stoic wisdom offers clarity. The Stoics taught that you can't control what others do, but you can absolutely control how you respond. This isn't about pretending that toxic behavior doesn't affect you. It's about recognizing reality and then making intentional choices. If someone lies to you or hides the truth, first, be honest with yourself. Don't delude yourself into thinking they'll change just because you wish they would. Chronic dishonesty doesn't disappear just because you're hopeful. Once you accept the truth, the next step is to set firm boundaries. Think of your life as your home, and your boundaries are the doors. You get to decide who enters, how long they stay, and under what conditions. Don't let people walk in and ransack your peace of mind. If someone breaks your trust, shut that door. Take the space you need to protect your own sanity. This isn't about being bitter or punitive. It's about choosing to value your inner peace over someone else's lies. And if, after setting boundaries, that person continues to disrespect them, then it might be time to take even stronger steps. Because, in the end, your well-being matters more than maintaining the illusion of harmony with someone who repeatedly crosses the line. No matter how many boundaries you set, dishonest people always seem to find a way to cross them. And when that keeps happening, you eventually have to make more decisive and difficult choices. Relationships, at their core, should be grounded in mutual trust. If someone repeatedly breaks that trust, then you have to stop and ask yourself, do you really need that person in your life? Because truthfully, life is too short to be surrounded by individuals who lack transparency. Sometimes letting go is the most healing choice you can make. As Seneca wisely emphasized, true peace often comes through detachment. Think of truth as a mirror. Once it shatters, it never reflects the same image again. So don't waste your time trying to piece together what can never return to its original form. Living with honesty, both with yourself and with others, is what truly allows you to move through life with inner peace. Now let's talk about control, specifically excessive control. Have you ever noticed how some people around you seem strangely eager to take charge of your life? It's like they've grabbed the remote control and started changing the channel on your decisions, your relationships, even your freedom. And it's easy to fall into that trap, to let others become the directors of your life story. But seriously, did you come all this way just to play a minor role in your own life? Of course not. There are people who somehow manage to step into your life and act like they know how to run it better than you do. They tell you who you should date, how you should behave, and what choices you should make. They don't just offer advice. They impose their will, either subtly or blatantly, all while claiming it's for your own good. They draw out the blueprint of your life based on their own needs, and in that narrative, what part do you play? Too often, it's someone who slowly gives away control. This kind of control can come from a concerned friend, a well-meaning relative, or even a partner trying to shape you into their idea of who you should be. But let's be real, you weren't put here to be a puppet dancing to the strings of someone else's fears or desires. This is where Stoic philosophy sheds light. The Stoics taught that the only things we truly have control over are our own minds, our thoughts, and our actions. Everything else? That belongs to the outside world. So why are you letting someone else invade the only space that is truly yours? Imagine your life is like a garden. You're the one who chooses which flowers to plant, how often to water them, and when to prune them. But if you start letting others come in and decide what to plant, which flowers to remove, and where everything should go, then that garden stops being yours. It turns into a patchwork of other people's decisions. So what do you do when someone tries to control you? The answer might seem straightforward. Say no, not with anger or resentment, but with clarity and firmness. A simple, unwavering no can serve as a strong wall for those trying to take over your independence. You don't have to explain or justify every decision you make. Sometimes, setting boundaries is as simple as honoring your own limits. One useful Stoic strategy is to practice indifference, or ataraxia. a serene state of mind that isn't shaken by external noise. Don't let the pressures around you turn into chaos inside you. When someone keeps pushing to control your life, take a breath and remind yourself, only you decide how much weight to give their words. At the end of the day, we all have our own garden to tend. No one else should have more say over your life than you allow. So the next time someone tries to steer your choices, think about your garden, what you want to grow, how you want to nurture it, and the vision you have for it. Life's too short to live according to someone else's expectations. The only direction that matters is the one you choose. After all, it's you who will live with the results of your decisions, not them. So why not make choices that are genuinely yours, not just what others want from you? Let this sink in. Those who are most eager to control others are often the ones who have the least control over their own lives. Now let's talk about something that leaves a deeper mark: humiliation. We've all been there. Those moments when someone makes you feel foolish in front of others. That awful sensation that climbs up your spine, making you wish you could vanish on the spot. Whether it happens in public, where everyone's watching and maybe even enjoying the show, or in private, where the words can cut even deeper because no one else hears them, it still stings. Humiliation is a behavior you should never tolerate, not from anyone. Yet sometimes you find yourself making excuses for it. But let's call it what it is. Humiliation is a cheap tactic used by people who want to feel powerful at your expense. Those who publicly point out your flaws or highlight what they see as your shortcomings are often dealing with their own internal issues. But knowing that doesn't make the experience any less painful. So here's the real question. Should you accept this kind of treatment? Picture your dignity as a shield. It may not be made of gold or steel, but it's strong enough to guard you from toxic words. Each time someone tries to humiliate you, they're aiming a poisoned arrow at that shield. The problem is, sometimes we lower our shield, maybe out of fear, or because we've grown used to taking those hits, especially when the arrows come from people close to us. But hear this loud and clear. It is not normal. You don't have to accept this treatment. Not from a loved one, not from a boss, not from a so-called friend, and not from anyone. The Stoics were crystal clear about this. You can't control how others act, but you can control how you respond. You can't stop someone from attempting to shame you, but you can choose whether or not their words matter. Sometimes, the most powerful reaction is no reaction at all, not out of weakness, but out of strength. Think of it like this. If a stranger hurled an insult at you on the street, you'd probably shrug and think, what's their problem, and keep walking. So why not treat familiar people who ridicule you the same way? That doesn't mean you have to turn your heart to stone. It means remembering that humiliation only has the power you give it. And if it's coming from someone close, that makes things harder, of course, because you may not want to stir conflict or tension. But that's where self-respect comes in. You're allowed, no, required, to set boundaries. Sometimes just saying, I don't like how you're speaking to me, is enough. And if it's not, if they continue, then it's time to ask yourself if this person truly belongs in your life. The solution is never silence. Swallowing humiliation doesn't make you noble. It just eats away at your spirit. Speaking up, taking action, and drawing a line, that's how you protect your dignity. And your dignity? That's never up for negotiation. As Epictetus once said, don't let someone else's words determine your self-worth. Now let's turn to something more subtle but equally draining, the lack of empathy. Have you ever wondered why you keep enduring what feels unbearable? Sometimes it seems like we've built up this strange tolerance for harmful behavior, as if it's just part of life's background noise. Maybe it's habit, maybe it's fear of making a fuss, or maybe it's the belief that there's no other option. But here's something you need to be absolutely sure of. You don't have to be a Stoic in the extreme sense, silently swallowing emotions as if they were rocks in your throat, especially not when it comes to dealing with a lack of empathy. You've probably experienced it. You open up, trying to share something painful or personal, and the person on the other end stares at you blankly, as if you're telling them what you had for lunch. The worst part? It's not just that they don't understand, it's that they don't care. The absence of empathy feels like an uninvited guest at a party. It shows up without a greeting, eats all the cake, and gives nothing in return. It doesn't acknowledge your feelings, doesn't try to connect, and certainly doesn't contribute anything meaningful to your emotional well-being. It just sits there, cold, motionless, and draining. These individuals don't contribute to your well-being. Worse, their presence can leave you feeling lonelier than if you were actually alone. Even when you're surrounded by people, some have a remarkable ability to reduce your struggles to mere anecdotes, or worse, treat them as inconveniences. If you've ever opened up about your feelings only to hear a dismissive, "everyone has problems," or a cold, "it'll pass," then you've already encountered the painful face of emotional neglect. You might tolerate this behavior because you've been convinced that expecting more is too much. Maybe you've been made to believe that asking for emotional support or understanding is some sort of extravagant request, not something you're entitled to. But here's the truth. Emotional support is not a luxury. It's a fundamental human need. When we excuse someone's lack of empathy with phrases like, "they don't know how to express themselves," or "they must be going through something," we risk belittling our own needs. It's like owning a plant and never watering it because the sun should be enough. Eventually, the plant will wither. You cannot thrive solely on someone else's emotional leftovers. So what can you do when you're faced with someone who lacks empathy? There's no magic solution, but there are ways to protect yourself. One essential step is learning to set boundaries. This doesn't mean going into full dramatic confrontation mode. It simply means getting clear about what you need and what you won't tolerate. If someone consistently shows no genuine interest in your struggles, maybe they don't deserve a central place in your life. Another approach is to build your own circle of support, people who truly know how to listen and stand by you. You need those who don't require a grand explanation to show they care. Look for environments where you feel appreciated, not out of obligation, but because someone genuinely desires to be there for you. And perhaps most importantly, take care of your own emotional health. This doesn't mean becoming emotionally numb to others, but it does mean recognizing when your needs aren't being met and doing something about it. Because life isn't just about getting by, it's about living fully. Enduring the unbearable is not the goal. Some people simply don't deserve the place you've given them in your life. If you notice someone constantly dismissing your feelings, always absent when it matters, or only showing up when it benefits them, it may be time to reevaluate that relationship. At the end of the day, it's not the number of people around you that counts. It's who truly stands with you. As Gandhi said, those who value you will listen to you, and those who listen will care for you. Let's talk about another painful truth. Criticism. We've all been there. You're doing your job, working on a passion project, or simply enjoying life, and someone decides to drop a harsh comment out of nowhere. There's nothing helpful about it, just a sting that leaves you questioning everything. It's almost as if some people were born just to make others feel inadequate. We've all heard words that didn't help us improve, but instead dragged us down. But why should we tolerate this kind of behavior? Why should it have space in our lives? Destructive criticism is often nothing more than someone else venting their own frustrations under the guise of feedback. Imagine someone tripping on the stairs and throwing a rock at you for no reason. That's the emotional equivalent. Let's be honest. If a critique doesn't come with useful insight or a clear path forward, it only serves to hurt. This is exactly where the wisdom of Stoicism becomes valuable. It teaches us to focus only on what truly adds value to our lives. One of our biggest mistakes is giving more weight to the opinions of others than to our own beliefs and efforts. We often forget why what we're doing matters in the first place. We get so wrapped up in trying to please everyone that we end up giving anyone the power to define our worth, even those whose opinions are as helpful as a pair of broken shoes. Of course, this doesn't mean all criticism is bad. Constructive criticism, even when it stings, serves a purpose. It acts like a mirror, helping us see what needs to be fixed so we can grow. But destructive criticism is like a shattered mirror. It reflects a distorted image of who we are, and, if we're not careful, it can harm us deeply. There's no reason to accept words that tear us down without offering any way to build us back up. That's where Stoic principles can guide us. They remind us not to waste energy on things outside our control. You can't stop someone from lashing out, but you can choose how you respond. Ask yourself, does this person's opinion really matter? Do they have your best interest at heart? If the answer is no, their words deserve none of your attention. You wouldn't let background noise at a coffee shop distract you from a meaningful conversation, so treat destructive comments the same way. Tune them out. In the end, what truly matters is how you feel about your efforts and how you can keep improving, not what someone says who lacks knowledge, empathy, or intent to help. So the next time someone tries to tear you down, pause and ask, does this add anything valuable to my life? If it doesn't, don't waste a second more thinking about it. Your time is far too precious to be spent on people who don't want to see you thrive. As my late father used to say, it's not your job to carry the weight of other people's bitterness. You're here to build your own path, regardless of who tries to stand in the way. Remember, being stoic doesn't mean ignoring all criticism. It means having the wisdom to separate the useful from the toxic. Now, let's touch on something even more subtle but equally damaging: indifference. Sometimes it sneaks in as a small discomfort, a comment that unsettles you, or a strange silence from someone who once mattered. At first you brush it off, but over time it starts to gnaw at you. You begin to question whether it's normal for someone to repeatedly ignore how you feel or what you need. In a world where being strong often means tolerating everything, it's all too easy to fall into the trap of accepting indifference as a normal part of life. But let me be clear, there is nothing normal about this kind of emotional neglect. Indifference isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet and routine, which makes it all the more dangerous. It's in those moments when you express your feelings and are met with nothing but silence, or when you ask for something, time, support, understanding, and receive nothing but vague promises that are never fulfilled. It's when your emotional or physical needs are repeatedly dismissed or ignored. This kind of behavior, while subtle, can be a form of abuse. Stoic philosophy teaches us that we should not rely on others' actions to find peace, but that doesn't mean we should accept being mistreated. Being stoic doesn't mean becoming a doormat. It means knowing what deserves your energy and who deserves it. So what should you do? I'm not suggesting that you turn into some emotional warrior who confronts everyone with grand speeches. You don't need to go to extremes. But it is vital to recognize when something isn't right and to assert your boundaries. Boundaries aren't barriers. They're like road signs that keep you from getting lost. If someone consistently ignores or belittles you, ask yourself, is this really what I want to allow in my life? Because sometimes, in our effort to avoid conflict, we hurt ourselves even more. It's like being thirsty and accepting an empty glass over and over. You can pretend you're fine, but eventually, your thirst wins out. Ignoring your own needs isn't strength. It's a warning sign that something needs to change. This doesn't mean you have to cut people off completely or that you're inviting unnecessary drama. It simply means you're communicating your value, making it clear that your well-being matters. It won't always be easy. People don't change just because you want them to, but every time you defend your space, you grow stronger. Not to become harder, but to become more aware. In conclusion, indifference and negligence may seem small, but they're deeply damaging. No one should have to live with them. The key is learning to see them clearly and responding accordingly. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is protect your peace. It's not about raising your voice or trying harder to be heard. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to stop listening to those who don't truly see your worth. Always remember this: your needs matter just as much as anyone else's. This isn't about being selfish, it's about practicing self-care. As Brian Tracy wisely said, what you tolerate today becomes what consumes you tomorrow. So don't allow indifference or emotional neglect to steal the space and respect you rightfully deserve. Now let's talk about jealousy. Have you ever felt guilty for enjoying things you love, like spending time with friends, pursuing hobbies, or just having interests that don't involve a particular person? If that sounds familiar, you may be facing something deeper that you shouldn't overlook. We're talking about jealousy, or more precisely, that obsessive possessiveness that some people mask as love. But the truth is, it's as toxic as any poison. Let's get real. If someone tries to restrict your freedom or make you feel bad for simply having a life beyond them, that's not love. That's control. Freedom is a beautiful concept, isn't it? Everyone craves it, yet not everyone is willing to offer it. Some people, especially in relationships, will try to bind you with invisible chains. They might say things like, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't need anyone else." Or, "Why do you get so excited to be with others if you already have me?" And just like that, you start to second-guess your joy, wondering if it's wrong to enjoy a simple coffee with friends or a peaceful afternoon reading alone. Here's the spoiler: it's not wrong at all. The problem is that we've been fed a flawed version of love, one that tells us we must pour every part of ourselves into someone else to prove it's real. It may sound poetic, but the truth is, love doesn't demand that much. What it really needs is respect, trust, and support. Love shouldn't suffocate you. It should help you thrive. If someone is trying to cage you inside their idea of what a relationship should be, they're not loving you. They're limiting you. The Stoic philosophers, wise as they were, understood this well. They taught that the only thing we truly have control over is ourselves, our choices, our responses, and our actions. What others think or do is out of our hands. So why give someone else the power to dictate how you feel, who you spend time with, or what lights you up inside? You weren't made to shrink yourself for someone else's comfort. Think of your life as a garden. You are the one who tends to it. The people close to you, whether they're partners, friends, or family, should act like mindful gardeners. They should know when to nurture you, when to step back, and most importantly, when to let you grow freely. You can't let someone come in with oversized shears trying to trim your spirit to fit their expectations or cram your growth into a smaller pot. It's your garden. If someone wants to be part of it, they need to respect its natural beauty, not redesign it according to their own vision. So what should you do if you realize someone in your life is limiting your freedom? First, speak up. Some people genuinely don't realize when they're being overly possessive or jealous. But be careful. If after expressing yourself, they still continue to guilt you or restrict you from living your life, it's time to reevaluate that relationship. A healthy relationship, whether it's romantic, platonic, or familial, should never strip you of your freedom. If it does, something's not right. This isn't about turning into someone who pushes others away or refuses to compromise. It's about understanding clearly that your personal freedom is non-negotiable. The people who truly care about you will know how to respect your space and honor who you are. Love, at its core, should create room for you to grow, not trap you in a box. So don't hold on to behaviors or relationships that shrink you, drain you, or make you feel guilty just for being yourself. Real love and real freedom give you the space to expand, not to be confined. And the next time someone tries to clip your wings, remember, genuine connection stems from respect, not control. I truly want you to hold on to this message because it can make a real difference in your life. Remember, true love doesn't rely on cages or constraints to feel secure. A soul with free wings always returns out of choice, not obligation. If you've stayed with me this far, leave a comment saying, "I don't intend to hold on to anyone's nonsense." I'd love to hear your stories and how you've navigated similar situations. Subscribe, activate the notification bell, and leave a comment. Your engagement helps YouTube understand that this kind of content resonates with people like you. It's what keeps us inspired to create more of it in the future. Don't forget to check out the last 2 videos we recommended. I genuinely appreciate your time, and I'll see you in our next video. Top of form, bottom of form. Let's be clear, your life is filled with things that don't serve you. These things hold you back and drain your energy, yet have you ever stopped to consider why you keep carrying them? Sometimes the most rebellious act isn't making noise, but silently removing everything that adds nothing of value to your life. Toxic relationships, self-destructive habits. You don't need to announce it to the world, nor should you wait for anyone's approval to make these changes. In today's video, I will guide you through how to apply Stoic philosophy to let go of what you can't control and free yourself. Life is too short to remain trapped by the expectations of others. I will show you, step by step, how to eliminate the 10 things that are undoubtedly causing chaos in your life. These things are not only impacting you mentally and physically, but they are slowly destroying you. In no time at all, you'll realize that the last thing will leave you speechless. So begin today in silence with no excuses. Ultimately, what you leave behind says far more about you than what you desperately try to hold on to. Are you ready to truly start living? But before we dive into the lessons, let me share a story that will help you better understand the wisdom contained in this material. In a remote seaside village lived a young fisherman named Eleanor, who was well known for her ability to navigate the roughest waters and fish on even the most challenging days. Over the years, Eleanor had accumulated a large number of broken nets and tools that she no longer used, but she kept them out of habit. Despite this, every time she set out to sea, her small boat was cluttered with unnecessary items that hindered her work. One day, as she prepared for a long day on the ocean, a strong storm broke out. The waves were battering her boat, and Elena realized that the excess baggage she was carrying was severely limiting her ability to maneuver. For hours, she fought the storm, but she couldn't shake the feeling that her real enemy wasn't just the waves. It was the unnecessary burden she was carrying. In a moment of clarity, Elena made a difficult but necessary decision. She began to throw away everything that was no longer useful. First, the broken nets, then the frayed ropes, and finally, even some personal items she had kept out of attachment. With each item that left her boat, it grew lighter, and she could maneuver with ease. The waves were still crashing hard, but now Elena no longer felt trapped by the weight of the past. Thanks to her actions, she was able to stay afloat, and when the storm finally subsided, she made it back to port, exhausted but safe. When her fellow fishermen asked how she had survived, Elena responded with a calm smile, saying, "There are times in life when we cling to things we don't need, objects, memories, or people, that only add weight to our journey. Only when we let go of what's unnecessary, silently and without drama, do we find the freedom to move forward." The moral of this story is that in life, we must silently eliminate many things in order to continue. Sometimes the load we carry hinders us from moving forward, and only by letting go can we discover our true path. Now, before we begin, if you find these videos helpful, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can stay updated with the latest content. Let's dive into the first lesson. The first thing to eliminate is the fear of others' opinions. Have you ever stopped to think about how many decisions you've made simply out of fear of what others might think? That fear sneaks into your life and prevents you from being yourself, as if you're living on stage under the critical eye of an audience that likely isn't even paying attention. The truth is, people are usually too caught up in their own insecurities to judge you, but still, you feel paralyzed by the fear of others' judgment. This fear is one of those silent parasites that latch onto your dreams, whispering in your ear whenever you think about doing something bold or different. What will they think? And suddenly, you change your course. You start living in ways that please others, even though they may not be in your inner circle, and in doing so, you lose sight of who you really are. This is how this fear works. It pushes you to please people you might not even know well, as if your internal compass is misaligned. Instead of following the path your intuition points to, you follow society's expectations. You put on the mask that fits the moment, at work, with friends, and even on social media. But where is the real you beneath all the fake smiles and borrowed opinions? Sometimes, the fear of what others will say is more subtle. It disguises itself as caution, as if saying, "It's not the right time," or "Maybe I'm not good enough." But deep down, these are simply excuses, veiling the fear of judgment. To eliminate this fear, we must embrace Stoic philosophy. The Stoics remind us that we cannot control what others think of us, but we can control how we react to it. It sounds simple, but it isn't easy. It requires constant self-reflection and courage. It's about learning to live for yourself, making decisions that bring you happiness, not based on the expectations of others. Life is too short to live in the shadow of other people's opinions. A good exercise is to start quietly eliminating things in your life that don't add value. Those things you hold on to just to please others. If you've chosen a career that doesn't satisfy you, get rid of that burden. Start making small decisions, like doing something you've always wanted to, but were afraid to because of what others might think. Taking those small actions will free you. It won't be easy, and some days the weight of others' judgment will feel overwhelming. But remind yourself that every time you live according to others' opinions, you lose a little bit of yourself. It's a slow, silent death, but it's one you can avoid if you have the courage to be true to yourself. So, begin by eliminating those things quietly. There's no need to announce it to the world. Just let go of what doesn't belong to you. Learn to trust your own judgment and value your own opinion more than the opinions of others. In the end, the only person you have to answer to is yourself. As Carl Jung said, freedom begins the moment you stop worrying about what others think. The second thing to eliminate is toxic relationships. There's a saying I love. There is no worse blind person than the one who refuses to see. This is so true, and we often apply this selective blindness to our relationships. We get used to dealing with people who, in one way or another, subtract from our lives rather than adding to them. Yes, I'm talking about toxic relationships, which drain your energy little by little. The worst part is that we sometimes cling to these relationships as if they were indispensable. And it's not just about romantic relationships. Toxicity can exist in family, friendships, and at work. The funny thing is, no one forces you to keep these relationships in your life, but you continue to tolerate them in silence, almost as if letting go would be an offense to the world. Why do we do this? Perhaps because we've been taught that cutting ties is a sign of weakness or even cruelty. In reality, removing someone from your life can be one of the greatest acts of self-love. Philosophically speaking, the Stoics emphasized that we should not worry about what we cannot control, and this also applies to the people around us. You can't control how others act, but you can control whether you allow them to remain in your life. The challenge comes in doing this quietly. It's not about revenge or trying to appear superior. It's simply making the conscious decision to stop feeding a relationship that wears you down. Think about this. You don't need to create a drama to eliminate what no longer serves you. You don't need to announce it to anyone. Just stop feeding the relationship silently and without fanfare. Think of it like when you stop watering a plant that no longer blooms. You do it gently, with the understanding that it no longer belongs in your garden. Nothing dramatic happens. The plant continues its journey, and so do you. Everyone moves on, and that's perfectly fine. Have you ever noticed that there are people who, even if they are close to you, leave you feeling exhausted after spending time with them? It's not that they are bad people, but their energy just doesn't align with yours. And that's when the key comes in, learning to recognize these signs. Pay attention to how your body and mind react. If you find that every interaction with a certain person feels like running an emotional marathon, you might be in a toxic relationship. As painful as it may be to admit, this could be the truth. Here's where the strategy of silence comes in. You gradually reduce your interactions with them. You stop seeking out contact. You distance yourself quietly. There's no need for dramatic gestures or heated arguments. You simply stop being available. This is liberating, not because you are turning your back on the world, but because you are choosing to prioritize your own well-being. Self-love isn't just about loudly saying no. Sometimes it's about quietly saying enough. To identify these relationships, consider this. If seeing a message from them causes a knot in your stomach, or if spending time with them leaves you more drained than an entire week of work, or if you always find yourself giving without receiving anything in return, then you have your answer. Once you see it clearly, The process of elimination begins. Let it go quietly, without drama, without unnecessary explanations. Just move forward. The key isn't about being cruel, it's about respecting yourself enough to stop letting someone drain your energy. Energy that could be better spent on people or activities that bring you joy. Ultimately, it's about being honest with yourself and placing your well-being above guilt or fear of hurting others. Some people are like the wind. You feel them, but you can't hold on to them. Let them go. We all have destructive habits that sneak up on us. They start as small, seemingly harmless actions, but over time, they erode our mental or physical peace. I've fallen into that trap many times, doing little things that appear harmless at first, but, without realizing it, wear us down like a constant drip of water wearing away at a rock. What if these habits are the rocks in our daily lives? How do we eliminate them without making a scene? The first step is recognizing them. It's hard to pinpoint what bothers us about others, but when it comes to ourselves, it becomes easier. You wake up in the morning and, without thinking, reach for your phone. It's not for anything important, just out of habit, as if your finger is programmed to swipe the screen before your mind has even fully woken up. It feels harmless at first, but after a while, you realize you've spent 20 minutes scrolling mindlessly, your head already filled with distractions before your feet even hit the ground. This is just one example, but we do this with so many things. The extra cup of coffee that wasn't necessary, the conversation you shouldn't have had, the TV show that adds nothing but you continue to watch out of habit. These small things, over time, begin to chip away at your well-being. Eliminating these habits is no easy task. How many times have you promised yourself to quit doing something only to find yourself doing it more? It's like saying, "Tomorrow I'll start," but tomorrow comes, and it's just another day of excuses. This is where the Stoics' wisdom comes in. They taught that great changes don't happen suddenly, but in small, almost imperceptible steps. These steps are silent. You don't need to announce your intention to change to the world, nor do you need grand gestures. The key is in awareness. When you notice yourself reaching for your phone without thinking, simply stop. You don't need to throw the phone out the window, though that might feel cathartic. Just stop, breathe, and do something else. When you realize you're reaching for a third cup of coffee, ask yourself, do I really need this, or is it just out of habit? If it's the latter, put the cup down. Sometimes eliminating these habits is as simple as catching yourself at the right moment and making a small change. You don't need drama or monumental shifts to stop self-destructive habits. It's about consistency and silence. These small changes, like a drop of water over time, gradually polish away the rough edges. If you ever feel like you're not making progress, remember that what seems like a small effort now will, over time, become a great victory. You might not notice it immediately, but it's like planting a seed and forgetting about it until one day you realize a tree has grown. This is how small changes work in our lives. So, the next time you identify one of those habits that subtracts more from your life than it adds, eliminate it silently. No need for a grand announcement or dramatic gestures. Just let it go step by step, drop by drop. As Epictetus said, true change makes no noise. It just happens. Now, let's talk about the desire to control everything. Have you ever felt that if you don't have complete control over everything happening around you, the world will somehow fall apart? I understand. We like to believe that if we can organize everything down to the last detail, If we anticipate every possible outcome, life will run smoothly, like a perfectly well-oiled machine. But that is an illusion. The more we try to control things, the more we feel like we are losing balance. The truth is, trying to control everything is a mental prison, one that we build piece by piece each time we believe that if we just try harder, things will go exactly as we expect. But the universe doesn't work like that. Stoic philosophy teaches us that the key is not to try and control what we cannot, but to let go of what is unnecessary and focus on what truly depends on us. Think about it. We try to control the time, the opinions of others, the reactions, the outcomes, all of these things that are beyond our control. It's like trying to stop the tide with your hands. It's nonsense. Yet, we do this constantly, and when things don't go as planned, we get frustrated and angry, as if some cosmic injustice is at play. It's ironic, isn't it? Imagine that you're carrying a backpack, and every time you try to control something that's beyond your reach, you add a stone to it. At first, the weight may not bother you too much, but over time, that backpack becomes heavier and heavier, eventually crushing you. Wouldn't it be better to get rid of those stones and make space for what really matters? Things that you can control, like your emotions, your actions. You need to learn to let go of the things that don't depend on you. For a long time, I was obsessed with anticipating every possible negative outcome in my life. If I had a work meeting, I was already mentally preparing for every awkward question. If I was meeting friends, I worried about whether the venue would be right. I was constantly stressed, imagining all the things that could go wrong. And of course, most of them never happened. Over time, I realized that this obsession with controlling every detail wasn't giving me more control. It was just giving me more anxiety. Slowly, I began to trust more in the process of life. Things still happened, sometimes in the way I hoped, sometimes not, but I felt lighter because I had stopped carrying the weight of everything that wasn't up to me. Learning to trust life doesn't mean being passive or irresponsible. It's about having the maturity to accept that there are things beyond our control. And that's okay. Letting go doesn't mean lying down and letting life pass you by. It means making space for the unexpected, for the surprises that come from things you can't control. And by letting go, you take control in a much more powerful way. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us in his Meditations, real power lies in the ability to release what we cannot control. One of the most draining things we try to hold on to is our unrealistic expectations. I don't know about you, but I spent a large part of my life trapped in the belief that I had to be perfect. No one ever directly demanded perfection from me, yet somehow it was always there, lingering in the background, embedded in well-meaning compliments and subtle glances of approval. The unspoken comparisons, the pressure to be what others expected, became intertwined with the belief that success meant living up to both external expectations and the sky-high standards I had set for myself. But here's the truth. Striving to meet unrealistic expectations is like trying to fill a bottomless well with a bucket that leaks. You keep trying, pouring yourself out over and over, only to end up drained and discouraged. And what are you left with? A tired soul standing over a shallow puddle of frustration. What makes it worse is that many of these expectations don't even originate from us. They come from family, friends, society, and we accept them, thinking that the path to becoming better means we must live up to them. Let me ask you something. How many times have you felt deeply disappointed for not achieving something you never truly wanted in the first place. We set our sights so high that when we fall short, we feel like failures. If I'm not the best at work, the most loving partner, the perfect friend, or the ideal child, then what's left of me? These expectations start to weigh heavier than our actual efforts. It's like running a race with a backpack full of rocks. You move slower, get tired faster, and even if you reach the finish line, it feels like you crawled there. That's why I find Stoic philosophy so enlightening. It teaches us that we can't control how others perceive us or whether life unfolds in our favor. What we can control is how we respond to it. The key is learning to lighten the burden of those suffocating expectations. Lowering your expectations, both of yourself and of others, doesn't mean you're settling. It means you're setting yourself free. You're breaking away from that constant need to accomplish the impossible and allowing yourself to simply be and move forward. Of course, this transformation doesn't happen overnight. I'm not saying you should toss all your expectations out like yesterday's trash. Think of it like cleaning out a closet full of old clothes. You start by picking out what doesn't fit you anymore, what you never really liked, and piece by piece, you let go. Sometimes it's hard to get rid of something you believe you might use again, but deep down, you know you won't. Expectations work the same way. Begin by releasing the ones that were never truly yours. Then take a closer look at your own and ask yourself, are they really realistic? You don't have to hold on to everything. One simple yet powerful way to reduce the pressure of expectations is to change the way you speak to yourself. Instead of saying, I must do everything perfectly, try, I'll do the best I can with what I have right now. It might sound basic, but it's incredibly freeing. It gives you space to make mistakes, to be human, and to grow without that looming pressure. And another trick: don't announce all your plans to everyone. The less noise you create, the fewer expectations others will form about your journey. Because at the end of the day, all those outside expectations are just that, noise. When you silently remove what no longer serves you, life begins to flow in a more authentic, peaceful rhythm. Letting go of expectations isn't giving up, it's wisdom in action. Instead of focusing on who you should be or what you should achieve, concentrate on what truly matters to you and what lies within your control. Fewer expectations mean more freedom. Carve that truth into your mind. The less you expect, the lighter your soul becomes. Now let's talk about something else many of us cling to: the constant need to always be right. Have you ever noticed this compulsive tendency? The urge to be the one who's always correct. To be seen as the clever one, the know-it-all, the person with the final say in every discussion. It's as if every conversation is a battlefield, and your sense of worth depends on emerging victorious. But here's the twist: the war isn't with others, it's within yourself. Every time you argue just to prove you're right, it's as if you're trying to validate your own importance. Isn't that exhausting? I know it wore me out. We've been conditioned to believe we must always have the correct answer, that being wrong is somehow a weakness. Society, social media, even casual family gatherings reinforce this idea. Mistakes equal failure. But I'll share a little secret with you. Being right isn't always the most important thing. In fact, Stoic philosophy encourages us to accept what we can't control. And guess what? You can't control how others see things. This endless race to prove your intellect leads nowhere. It only breeds anxiety, frustration, and emptiness. That need to be the smartest in the room? You can drop it quietly. Ask yourself, what do I really gain by always being right? A badge of honor no one sees? An imaginary trophy? Carrying that weight is like dragging a suitcase full of rocks. Every debate, every forced opinion adds another stone. Eventually, the burden becomes unbearable, and you're left wondering why you feel so heavy inside. Next time you feel that itch to argue, try staying silent. Not because you've lost, but because you're letting go. It's like finally dropping a pen you didn't realize you'd been clutching for hours. What a relief. Suddenly, you feel a lightness you didn't even know you needed. The same goes for the need to be right. When you release it, you see how pointless the fight was, and how peaceful it feels to simply let it go. How do you start letting go? First, accept that you don't always need to be the one who knows everything. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to not have an opinion on every topic. Life isn't a quiz show. Second, practice listening, not to rebut or correct, but to genuinely understand. There's a big difference between hearing someone and truly listening. The first is automatic. The second takes effort and intention. And when you listen like that, the need to correct others starts to fade. Lastly, embrace silence. Embrace those quiet pauses in conversations, those moments when a response isn't necessary. Sometimes, the most powerful response is none at all, just letting others have their say. Because winning an argument isn't the same as having inner peace. So ask yourself, is it really worth sacrificing your peace just to prove a point? I doubt it. The next time you're tempted to jump in and correct someone, pause. Take a breath. Let it go. The peace you gain is far more valuable than any fleeting satisfaction of being right. And if you ever need reassurance, remember what the Stoics knew so well. True wisdom isn't in winning debates, but in knowing when not to engage. As Seneca put it, knowledge isn't about winning every battle. It's about knowing when not to fight. Let's now explore one more subtle but destructive weight we carry: the digital noise. Have you noticed how you're constantly surrounded by it? Not just the literal noise of cars or the neighbors hammering, but the digital kind. The constant buzzing, beeping, flashing. It's in your pocket, your hands, your eyes. It's the never-ending stream of social media posts, messages, and notifications. And it's all designed to distract you, to keep you in a permanent state of tension, as if you're on high alert 24/7. You may think you're in control, but in reality, it's the digital chaos that's controlling you. We live in a world where silence has become a rare luxury. But here's the good news. It's not out of reach. You just have to learn to identify what's really stealing your attention. Because there are things, noisy, invisible things, that you absolutely must begin to eliminate from your life. And yes, you can do it. But you need to go deeper than just closing an app or switching off a notification. That's like trying to put out a wildfire with a single cup of water. You need to be bold. You need to be deliberate. The Stoics knew that inner peace was everything, and that peace can't exist in a mind drowning in digital distraction. So what should you cut out? Let's start with social media. I know it sounds like a cliché, but believe me, the more people you follow, the more noise you allow in. I'm not saying you need to disappear from the internet, but you seriously need to ask yourself, do you really need to know what your sister's friend's cousin did on their vacation? Get rid of all of it, without hesitation. Be ruthless about protecting your peace, because every extra piece of digital clutter is a barrier between you and a quieter, calmer life. And you deserve that peace. You deserve to hear your own thoughts again. You deserve to live without the constant noise. Silently eliminate what doesn't serve you and watch your life shift. Watch it slow down. Watch it open up. Just like someone who cleans out their closet, tossing out things that no longer serve a purpose or should have never been there in the first place, you can start fresh. Begin with something seemingly small. Notifications. This is where things start to get interesting. Why do you let your phone interrupt your flow every couple of minutes? Each time it vibrates or dings with a message, your brain leaps into action, dragging your attention away. It doesn't just steal your time, it drains your mental energy too. So do this. Disable every non-essential notification. At first, you'll probably feel a wave of anxiety, as though you're missing out on something crucial. But give it time. Eventually, you'll realize how freeing it is to regain control over when and how you engage with your phone. You'll thank yourself for it. That nagging fear of missing out, FOMO, as we call it, has become one of the great villains of modern life. We live tethered to the idea that if we aren't constantly connected, we're losing out on something significant. But here's an uncomfortable truth. The things that truly matter are not found on your screen. They exist in your surroundings, in the people you're with, in the quiet, unnoticed moments you miss while waiting for the latest viral post. So release that fear. Stop trying to be everywhere at once, because the more you try to grasp it all, the more you miss out on what's truly worthwhile. Once you begin to let go of all that digital noise, something amazing happens. You start to hear what really matters. Digital silence becomes the gateway to reconnecting with yourself, your thoughts, and your true priorities. That's where Stoic philosophy gently steps in. While you can't always control what happens around you, you can control how you respond. And when the noise fades, life becomes much clearer. So here's my advice. Choose silence, not as the absence of sound, but as the conscious presence of what you genuinely want in your life. That, in the end, is the real luxury of our era. As Gandhi once said, peace doesn't come when the noise ends, it arrives when you choose to listen to yourself. Now let's talk about those negative thoughts. Have you ever noticed how negative thoughts can creep in without a sound? One minute everything feels fine, and the next, it's as if these thoughts are in control. They sneak in quietly, and before you know it, they're influencing everything you do. They're like those neighbors who show up uninvited and never seem to leave. What's worse is that you often hand them the keys, not because you want to, but because they've convinced you that they belong there, that their presence is normal. But what if you could change the locks? Let's be clear. These negative thoughts are just destructive mental patterns that start shaping your behavior in the worst possible ways. You've probably caught yourself thinking things like, "Nothing ever works out for me," or "I'm never going to succeed." And the more you repeat these thoughts, the more you start to believe them. It's like planting a poisoned tree and then wondering why the fruit is bitter. The twist is, these thoughts aren't usually rooted in reality, but they feel as real as the ground beneath your feet. And again, Stoic wisdom shines with its sharp clarity. You may not be able to control what life throws at you, but you can choose how to respond. It sounds simple, but most of the time we forget this. We let our emotions be hijacked by these recurring thought patterns. Yet true freedom lies in regaining control of your response. Now, this change doesn't happen overnight. It starts with silence. Yes, silence again. Quietly begin to eliminate the thoughts that no longer serve you. You don't need to put on a show or dramatically cast them out. Just learn to recognize when a negative thought appears. Identify it, then move on without giving it more attention than it deserves. Because the more attention you give these thoughts, the more power you hand over to them. It's like chasing a fly around a room. Obsessing over it only makes it worse. Why not just ignore it until it tires itself out? Another powerful technique is to question those thoughts when they show up. If you catch yourself spiraling into negativity, ask yourself, is this really true? Is everything going wrong, or am I just exaggerating the moment? Often, you'll find that these are blown-up ideas with no real foundation, and even if there's a grain of truth in them, at least you've started thinking about solutions instead of marinating in the problem. Finally, let's talk about detachment. No, you don't need to become a monk on a mountaintop, but you do need to create some emotional distance from the chaos inside your head. Your thoughts are not you. Just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean it deserves a permanent home there. With practice, you'll start to observe them for what they really are, fleeting clouds in a sky that remains constant beneath it all. Negative thoughts are like little intruders that you don't need to fight loudly. Just release them quietly, with patience and a shift in focus. Over time, you'll see that what you think determines what you do, and what you do defines who you are. As Brian Tracy said, thoughts are not facts, but if you believe them, they become your reality. Let's move on to something else we often overlook: physical and mental disorder. Have you ever woken up feeling like the whole world is just a bit too heavy? You glance around and realize it's not just a feeling. Your space is literally overflowing with stuff. Papers scattered, clothes piled on the chair, objects crammed into every corner. And somehow, your mind feels just as cluttered. If you're like me, when your surroundings are chaotic, your thoughts tend to mirror that mess. Physical and mental disorder are far more connected than we'd like to admit. When your space is drowning in clutter, your mind can't help but follow. The Stoics emphasized the importance of focusing on the essential and letting go of the excess. Disorder, in many ways, is the complete opposite. It's the accumulation of the unnecessary. Every out-of-place item, every forgotten object, is more than just physical mess. It's energy drain, it's mental noise. It's a quiet reminder of everything you haven't dealt with yet. That overwhelming feeling of not knowing where to begin. That's the trap. We try to tackle everything at once instead of simply starting with what no longer serves us. So begin quietly. Look around. Ask yourself honestly, do I need this? If something hasn't been used in ages, chances are you don't need it anymore. But don't stop at material things. Mental clutter works the same way. We hoard emotions, thoughts, and worries like someone keeping broken items just in case. But those things only weigh us down. So what can you do? Begin to release them. Gently, silently. No drama, no need for big declarations. Just let go of what drains you, both physically and mentally. In a world obsessed with noise and chaos, choosing silence can be an act of quiet rebellion. If there are people in your life who cause unease, projects that no longer excite you, or thoughts that only exhaust you, let them go. No need to explain, no need to overthink, just release. Remember, your outer environment often reflects your inner world. So when you bring clarity to your physical space, you'll find that same clarity slowly making its way into your mind. It's not magic. It's the natural result of thoughtful elimination, like cleaning out a drawer and feeling a weight lift from your chest. Every item in its rightful place becomes one less thing to worry about. The Stoics never complicated life with what wasn't necessary. They focused on what mattered and released what didn't. That's the kind of life we should aim for, one of simplicity and intention. Because in a world bursting with clutter, both physical and mental, it's easy to get lost. But the way out has always been there, hidden beneath the mess. You just couldn't see it. If you want peace of mind, start by organizing what's around you. Do it slowly. Do it quietly. Eliminate what no longer belongs, not in a frenzy, but with gentle, constant care. Your mind will thank you for it. As Nelson Mandela once said, "When the noise is silenced, the essential is heard more clearly." And now, let's talk about comparisons. Unnecessary comparisons. Why do we have this habit of measuring ourselves against others? Let's be honest, we all do it. But think for a moment. Does it actually serve you? It's like running in a race where no one else is actually competing, but you keep trying to beat someone anyway. They're not aware they're in the competition, and worst of all, they likely don't even care. And yet, there you are, inside your head, analyzing every step, every stumble, every tiny bit of progress, not even your own, but that of others. You keep measuring your worth by someone else's journey. Comparing yourself to others is like entering a singing contest using someone else's voice. It's nonsense. You have your own melody, your own rhythm, and yet you insist on following someone else's sheet music. The real issue is that this seemingly innocent habit slowly chips away at your self-worth. One day, you wake up feeling like you're falling short. You're not fast enough, not successful enough, not enough in some way. And all of that stems from spending more time watching what's happening on the sides than focusing on what's ahead. The truth is, life isn't a sprint. It's more like a journey by boat. You decide the route, the pace, and the stops. But if you're too focused on the sailboats passing you by, all you end up doing is drifting off your own course. Here's the ironic part. While you're busy watching someone else's boat glide by, that person might be doing the exact same thing, watching yours. That's how ridiculous comparison can be. Everyone's looking sideways, but hardly anyone is fully experiencing their own journey. Let me offer you something. Stop comparing yourself quietly. Make it like one of those silent habits that you drop without fanfare, like when you throw away a worn-out shirt that no longer serves you. No one needs to know you did it, but you'll feel the difference immediately. Because comparing yourself to others isn't just pointless, it's a betrayal of who you are. It's like telling your inner self that it's not enough, that you have to become someone else to be worthy. But if you pause and really think about it, that mindset is completely irrational. The Stoics already taught us this. The only meaningful comparison is with the person you were yesterday. So, what do you do when that little voice inside starts comparing again? The answer isn't to silence it, because that will only make it shout louder. Instead, hear it out, then challenge its reasoning. Why are you comparing yourself to that specific person? What is it about them that makes you feel less than? And then, here comes the part that truly matters. Remind yourself of everything you've accomplished on your own path. Take a moment to genuinely reflect on your growth, your little wins. You'll be amazed at how easy it is to forget how far you've come when you're constantly scanning someone else's progress. Another approach that really works is practicing gratitude. I know it might sound cliché, like one of those generic pieces of advice, but I promise you, it holds power. Be thankful for what you have, for what you've achieved, and for who you are becoming. Because when your focus shifts to what's present in your life instead of what's missing, or what someone else has, you'll feel something shift inside you. Suddenly, the burden of comparison starts to lift. You begin to realize that the only path that truly matters is your own. At the end of the day, life is far too short to waste time running in some imaginary race with people who aren't even aware of the competition. Comparing yourself just distracts you from what's truly important. Living your life at your own pace, guided by your own values. And trust me, once you begin to do that, you'll understand how freeing it really is. Let me leave you with a thought that helped me during some of my toughest moments. When you stop seeing yourself through the eyes of others, you finally begin to uncover who you truly are. If you've made it to this point, write this in the comments. In the silence, you will find the answer. I'd love to hear your stories of growth and success. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and drop a comment. This lets YouTube know these kinds of videos are meaningful to people like you, and it encourages us to keep making more. Also, check out the last 2 videos we posted. They might resonate with where you are now. Thank you so much for your time and support. I can't wait to see you on our next journey. Did you know that the secret to transforming your life's biggest challenges into your greatest opportunities might have been discovered over 2,000 years ago? Imagine facing life's storms with a calm so powerful nothing could shake your inner peace. Sounds like a superpower, right? Well, it's not just a fantasy. This ancient superpower, it's an age-old philosophy that's as practical today as it was in the bustling markets and marble halls of ancient Rome and Greece. Stoicism teaches us that while we can't control every aspect of our lives, we have absolute power over how we choose to react. And in today's world, where uncertainty seems to be the only certainty, these teachings could be the anchor we've all been searching for. What if I told you that Stoicism is more about action than thought? It's about living a life filled with purpose, resilience, and happiness, no matter what life throws your way. It's not about suppressing your emotions, but understanding and managing them to lead a more fulfilling life. So whether you're dealing with stress, facing adversity, or simply looking to find more joy in the everyday, stick around. Today we're diving deep into Stoicism, uncovering its timeless wisdom and discovering how it can transform not just the way we think, but the way we live. If you're eager to embark on this journey of transformation, don't forget to subscribe, share, and hit that like button. Stick with me till the end without skipping, because every moment of this video is a step towards uncovering the Stoic wisdom that can change your life. Focusing on what's in your control. Have you ever found yourself stuck in traffic, fuming over the delay, or scrolling through your phone only to get upset over a negative comment someone left on your post? It happens to the best of us. It's almost like our day-to-day life is filled with these little tests, challenging our mood and our peace of mind at every turn. But here's a game-changing perspective from the world of Stoicism that can turn all that frustration on its head. Stoicism, this incredible philosophy that dates back to ancient Greece and Rome, hands us this powerful tool, focusing on what's in our control. The great Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Think about that for a second. Traffic, bad weather, negative comments, these are all outside our control. We can't change them, no matter how much we wish we could. What we can change, however, is how we react to them. This idea isn't just ancient wisdom, it's backed by modern psychology too. Carl Jung, a giant in the field of psychology, famously stated, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." This aligns perfectly with the Stoic practice. It's about recognizing that the only real power we have is over our own reactions, thoughts, and actions. Let's break it down a bit. Say you're in that traffic jam, late for an important meeting. You can spend that time stewing in anger, honking your horn, and stressing out, which, let's be honest, won't make the cars ahead move any faster. Or you can take a deep breath, accept the situation, and maybe use the time to listen to a podcast, an audiobook, or simply enjoy some music. The traffic hasn't changed, but your response to it has. And with that shift, your stress levels drop, and your day looks a bit brighter. This Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control extends far beyond just dealing with traffic or weather. It applies to our personal goals, our reactions to others, and our approach to obstacles in life. As Marcus Aurelius, another Stoic heavyweight, reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So next time you find yourself getting worked up over something outside your control, remember these wise words from our Stoic friends. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If it's not, let it go. Focus on your reaction, your mindset, and your actions. This simple shift can have a profound impact on your stress levels and overall happiness. It's not always easy, but it's worth practicing every day. Remember, it's about progress, not perfection. And as we learn to focus more on what's in our control, we'll find ourselves not just surviving life's challenges, but thriving in spite of them. Stoicism teaches us the art of embracing obstacles as opportunities. It sounds counterintuitive, right? Most of us are programmed to view obstacles as just that, barriers to our success and happiness. But Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus flip this narrative on its head. Embracing obstacles as opportunities. They tell us when life throws you a curveball, instead of asking, why me? Ask, what can I learn? This is a game changer. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and a Stoic philosopher, penned in his personal writings, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. What he means here is that every obstacle, no matter how daunting, not only tests our resilience, but also teaches us valuable lessons. It's about finding the silver lining in tough situations and using it to fuel our growth. This perspective isn't just ancient philosophy. It's backed by modern thinkers too. The famous psychologist Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists." By fighting against obstacles, we give them more power over us, but by accepting and learning from them, we can overcome them. This Stoic mindset is about transforming challenges into stepping stones towards becoming stronger and wiser. Let's make it practical. Say you're facing rejection from job applications. It's easy to fall into a spiral of self-pity and doubt, but what if you viewed each rejection as feedback? Maybe there's a skill you need to improve or a new strategy for your job search. That shift in perspective can turn a series of rejections into a path for professional development. Another example is personal conflicts. They're uncomfortable and stressful, but they also offer a chance to practice patience, empathy, and communication skills. Every disagreement is an opportunity to understand different viewpoints and to refine our conflict resolution abilities. The essence of embracing obstacles as opportunities lies in asking ourselves, what can this situation teach me? Instead of being passive victims of circumstance, we become active learners and problem solvers. This doesn't mean that facing obstacles becomes easy, but it does mean that we approach them with a mindset geared towards growth and learning. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is the heart of Stoicism. It's about seeing beyond the immediate pain or frustration of an obstacle and finding the lessons and opportunities it presents. So when you're faced with a challenge, big or small, try to pause and reframe it. Ask yourself what you can learn from the situation and how it can make you stronger and wiser. Remember, obstacles aren't just hurdles to overcome, they're opportunities to grow. By adopting this Stoic mindset, we can navigate life's ups and downs with more grace, resilience, and wisdom. It's something we hear about all the time, right? Live in the now. But what does that really mean, and why is it so important? Living in the present moment is about fully embracing and experiencing where you are at this very second, not letting your mind wander off to the worries of tomorrow or the regrets of yesterday. It's about realizing that life, with all its beauty, challenges and surprises, happens in the now. This concept isn't new. It's been a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, echoed by great minds like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. And it's been reiterated by modern psychologists and thinkers. Let's start with the Stoics. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future." Living in the present moment. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. He understood that the power of living in the present lies in its ability to ground us, to clear our minds of distractions, and to allow us to appreciate the richness of life as it unfolds. But why is it so hard to stay present? Our minds are often cluttered with thoughts, worries about what's next, or replaying things that have already happened. This constant mental noise pulls us away from the beauty and potential of the here and now. As the famous psychologist Carl Jung put it, "The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it." Living in the present moment gives meaning to the small, everyday experiences, enriching our lives beyond measure. Aristotle talked about the importance of being mindful of the present to achieve eudaimonia, a state of being happy, healthy, and prosperous. He believed that by focusing on the here and now, we could live a virtuous life, making the most of our human experience. So how can we practice living in the present? It starts with mindfulness, the art of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. When you eat, savor each bite. When you walk, notice the feeling of the ground under your feet. Listen actively when someone is speaking to you instead of planning what you're going to say next. These simple acts of mindfulness bring us back to the present, making our lives richer and more meaningful. Seneca offered this wisdom: "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." He understood that anxiety about what's to come or what has been only serves to diminish our happiness in the now. Living in the present isn't about ignoring the future or forgetting the past. It's about finding a balance where we learn from our past and plan for our future without letting those activities consume our present. It's in this balance that we find peace and contentment. Remember, every moment is an opportunity to reset and refocus on the now. It's in the present that we live, love, and make memories. So let's make a conscious effort to be more present in our lives. Let's cherish the now, for this moment right here is where life truly happens. I know the word self-discipline might bring to mind images of rigid schedules and a life devoid of fun, but let's reshape that picture together. Self-discipline is not about restricting your life. It's about empowering yourself to make choices that align with your deepest values and long-term aspirations. It's choosing what's right for you, not what's easy in the moment. At its core, building self-discipline is about mastery over ourselves. It's about saying yes to things that serve us and no to things that don't, even when it's tough. Think about it. Whether it's sticking to a workout routine, saving money instead of impulse buying, or turning off Netflix to focus on a project, these choices might not deliver instant gratification, but they pave the way for long-term satisfaction and success. Stoic philosophy has a lot to say about self-discipline. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This powerful statement highlights the essence of self-discipline. It's about controlling our impulses, building self-discipline, emotions and actions despite the external temptations and distractions that life throws our way. Seneca offers wisdom on the subject too. He advises us to be steadfast and control our desires rather than being controlled by them. He understood that true freedom comes from within, from our ability to govern ourselves and our appetites. But why is self-discipline so critical? Aristotle, the ancient Greek philosopher, sheds light on this. He believed that we achieve excellence and virtue through habit. By practicing self-discipline, we cultivate habits that lead us toward our best selves. It's not about occasional acts of willpower, but about consistently making choices that reflect our values and goals. Building self-discipline also ties into modern psychological understanding. Carl Jung, a pioneer in psychology, emphasized the importance of integrating all aspects of our personality to live fully. This integration requires self-discipline, as we must navigate the desires of different parts of our psyche, choosing paths that contribute to our overall well-being and growth. So how can we build self-discipline in our daily lives? Start small. Pick one area you want to improve, whether it's your diet, exercise routine, or spending habits. Set clear, achievable goals and take it one day at a time. Remember, every time you make a choice that aligns with your goals, you're building the muscle of self-discipline. Epictetus reminds us, "No great thing is created suddenly." Self-discipline is built through small, consistent actions. It's about progress, not perfection. Every day presents new opportunities to practice self-discipline, to choose actions that move us closer to who we want to be. Building self-discipline is a journey. It's about finding balance between what we want now and what we want most. It's about making choices that might be hard in the moment, but will bring us closer to our goals, happiness, and peace in the long run. So let's commit to this journey together, supporting one another in choosing what's right, not what's easy. Remember, in the realm of self-discipline lies the path to achieving our dreams and living a life we truly love. When life throws its curveballs, we all experience a whirlwind of emotions. Feeling angry, sad, or frustrated is a natural part of being human. But here's the kicker. It's not just about the emotions we feel, it's about how we handle them. That's where the magic of emotional resilience comes in. Emotional resilience is like this superpower that allows us to navigate through life's storms with grace and come out stronger on the other side. It's about acknowledging our emotions, understanding them, and then taking positive steps to move forward rather than being swept away by the tide of our feelings. The Stoics had a lot to say about this. Marcus Aurelius, for example, reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This profound insight touches the essence of emotional resilience. It's about recognizing that while we might not have control over what happens to us, we have control over how we respond. Developing emotional resilience. Our emotions don't have to control our actions. Seneca offers wisdom on facing adversity without losing our composure. He teaches that life's hardships are tests of our character and resilience. By facing our feelings with understanding and patience, we can grow wiser and more robust. But how do we develop this emotional resilience? It starts with self-awareness. Being mindful of our emotions and reactions helps us understand ourselves better. It's okay to feel what we're feeling, but instead of reacting impulsively, we can choose to respond in a way that aligns with our values and long-term well-being. Aristotle spoke about the golden mean, finding the balance between excess and deficiency. This concept applies beautifully to emotional resilience. It's about finding a balanced response to our emotions, not suppressing them or letting them overpower us. Carl Jung, a pioneer in psychology, emphasized the importance of integrating all aspects of our psyche to achieve wholeness. Part of this process involves confronting our emotions, understanding them, and learning from them. This is at the heart of developing emotional resilience. So what can you do when you're in the grip of strong emotions? First, give yourself permission to feel. Acknowledge your emotions without judgment. Then, take a step back and try to understand what triggered these feelings. This reflection can provide valuable insights into your emotional patterns and triggers. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is a powerful reminder that our reactions to our emotions can shape our experiences. Instead of being reactive, we can choose to respond in a way that is constructive and healing. Developing emotional resilience is a journey. It involves practicing mindfulness, self-reflection, and patience. It's about building a toolkit of coping strategies like journaling, talking to a trusted friend, or practicing relaxation techniques. Most importantly, it's about treating yourself with kindness and compassion as you navigate through your emotions. Emotional resilience is not about never feeling negative emotions. It's about learning to ride the waves of those emotions with grace and coming out on the other side stronger and more self-aware. By developing emotional resilience, we empower ourselves to face life's challenges with courage and poise. Let's embrace this journey together, supporting each other in becoming more emotionally resilient and ultimately living a more fulfilling life. The Stoics, including great minds like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, used this concept not to create fear, but to inspire a deeper appreciation for every moment. They believed that by keeping the inevitability of death in mind, we would live more fully, consciously, and with gratitude for the present. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reflected on the transience of life, encouraging us to live in a way that's true to our values and to make the most of the time we're given. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think, he wrote. This isn't about being morose. It's a call to action, a reminder to focus on what truly matters. Memento mori, remember you will die. To let go of petty concerns and to live with purpose and integrity. Seneca too spoke about the shortness of life, urging us not to waste time on trivialities, but to focus on creating a meaningful existence. He believed that being mindful of death encourages us to live more wisely and to cherish our relationships and experiences. Epictetus emphasized the importance of focusing on the present and making the best use of our time. By remembering that we won't live forever, we're more likely to live ethically and to appreciate the beauty and richness of life. But how can we incorporate memento mori into our own lives without it feeling like a dark cloud over our heads? It starts with shifting our perspective. Instead of seeing the awareness of death as something fearful, we can view it as a powerful motivator to live our lives to the fullest. It's about embracing the present, not postponing our dreams or happiness for some undefined future that's not guaranteed. Think about the things you've been putting off. Maybe it's pursuing a passion, reconnecting with loved ones, or simply taking time to appreciate the small joys of everyday life. Memento mori reminds us not to take our time for granted. It encourages us to live more authentically, to say what we mean, to love openly, and to be present in our lives. This concept also teaches us to appreciate the impermanence of life, which in turn deepens our gratitude for the moments we have. When we remember that our time is limited, we're more likely to cherish our experiences, to live more mindfully, and to express our gratitude for the people and moments that enrich our lives. So let's use memento mori not as a source of fear, but as a catalyst for growth, gratitude, and a deeper appreciation of life. Let it remind us to make choices that align with our deepest values, to cherish our relationships, and to savor the beauty of the present moment. Remembering that we will die one day encourages us to live more fully today. In embracing memento mori, we find a powerful reminder to live not in fear of death, but in celebration of life. Let's make every moment count, not because we're afraid of its end, but because we're in love with life itself. Let's live in a way that when our time does come, we can look back with no regrets, knowing we lived fully, loved deeply, and appreciated the incredible journey that life is. It's fascinating how such a simple concept can have a profound impact on our lives. It's about shifting our focus to what we have rather than dwelling on what we're missing. This practice can be a real game changer, especially on those days that feel like an uphill battle. The Stoics, wise as they were, had a lot to say about gratitude. They believed that happiness doesn't come from having more, but from appreciating what we already have. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of focusing on the present and finding joy in the simple things. He said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This is gratitude in its purest form, recognizing the value of life itself and the many gifts it offers us each day. Practicing gratitude. Seneca talked about how our desires can lead us astray, always chasing after more and never finding true satisfaction. He suggested that by focusing on what we have and understanding that the best things in life are already within our grasp, we can find real contentment. Epictetus, known for his practical approach to Stoic philosophy, encouraged his followers to appreciate their current circumstances, whatever they might be. He believed that by accepting and finding value in our present situation, we could live a more fulfilled life. But how do we practice gratitude, especially when life throws curveballs our way? It starts with making it a daily habit. Each morning or evening, take a moment to reflect on 3 things you're grateful for. It could be as simple as a warm cup of coffee, a conversation with a friend, or the beauty of a sunset. This practice helps to rewire our brains to focus on the positive, boosting our mood and overall outlook on life. Gratitude also means embracing the challenges and finding lessons within them. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we can ask, What can I learn from this? This shift in perspective can help us appreciate our experiences, both good and bad, as valuable steps on our journey. Moreover, practicing gratitude helps us build stronger connections with others. By expressing appreciation for the people in our lives, we not only brighten their day, but also strengthen our relationships. A simple thank you can go a long way in showing someone that they're valued and loved. Aristotle spoke about the importance of recognizing the good in our lives and striving for a virtuous life. He believed that gratitude was a key part of achieving eudaimonia, or true happiness, as it allows us to appreciate the goodness around us and within ourselves. Even modern psychology supports the benefits of gratitude. Studies have shown that people who practice gratitude regularly experience less anxiety, sleep better, and have a more positive outlook on life. It's like Carl Jung said, the word happiness would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. By acknowledging and being grateful for the full spectrum of our experiences, we find a deeper, more authentic form of happiness. So let's make gratitude a cornerstone of our daily lives. Let's celebrate the small victories, cherish the moments of connection, and find joy in the simple pleasures. By focusing on what we have, not what we're missing, we can cultivate a sense of abundance and happiness that shines from within. Remember, it's not happiness that brings us gratitude. It's gratitude that brings us happiness. Let's fill our glasses half full, raise them high, and toast to the beauty of gratitude in our lives. Cheers to finding the silver lining, even on the cloudiest of days. The Stoics had a profound understanding of personal excellence. They believed that excellence, or virtue, is the sole good, and that everything we do should aim towards living a virtuous life. Marcus Aurelius, for instance, is a prime example of someone who strived for personal excellence. He once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This simple yet powerful statement encapsulates the essence of personal excellence. It's about embodying the values we admire and striving to live by them every day. Focusing on personal excellence. Seneca emphasized the importance of self-improvement and learning. He advocated for a life lived in accordance with nature and reason, suggesting that true excellence comes from within and is reflected in our actions and choices. Epictetus highlighted the role of personal responsibility in achieving excellence. He taught that our reactions, our emotions, and our will are within our control, and mastering them is key to living a life of virtue. But what does focusing on personal excellence look like in our day-to-day lives? It starts with setting personal standards based on our values and aspirations, not societal expectations or the achievements of others. It's about knowing who we are, understanding our strengths and weaknesses, and taking consistent steps towards improvement. Personal excellence is also about resilience. It's about how we respond to setbacks and failures, not just our successes. Like Aristotle said, excellence is never an accident. It is always the result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. It represents the wise choice of many alternatives. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. This means embracing challenges as opportunities to learn and grow, rather than seeing them as obstacles. Moreover, focusing on personal excellence involves cultivating a growth mindset, a concept championed by modern psychology. It's the belief that our abilities and intelligence can be developed through dedication and hard work. This mindset encourages us to embrace challenges, persist in the face of setbacks, and see effort as a path to mastery. Personal excellence also means living authentically. It's about being true to ourselves and our values, even when it's not easy. It's about making choices that reflect who we are and who we want to be, and taking pride in our journey, including the struggles and the triumphs. Practicing gratitude, as we discussed earlier, ties into personal excellence too. By appreciating what we have and where we are on our journey, we foster a positive outlook that supports our growth and well-being. So let's commit to focusing on personal excellence. Let's set our own standards, embrace our unique paths, and take pride in our progress. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being proud of who we are and how we live. It's about celebrating our efforts, learning from our experiences, and always striving to be the best versions of ourselves. Together, let's make personal excellence not just a goal, but a way of life. In a world saturated with social media, where likes, follows, and comments often dictate our self-worth, it's easy to fall into the trap of valuing ourselves through the lens of others' opinions. But here's a liberating truth. Your worth isn't based on external validation. It's about being true to yourself, embracing your authenticity, and living in alignment with your values. The Stoics, those ancient philosophers we keep turning to for timeless wisdom, had a lot to say about this. They taught that our inner peace and freedom come from focusing on what's within our control, our actions, our thoughts, our integrity, not the fluctuating opinions of others. Not caring what others think. Marcus Aurelius wisely stated, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinions of others." This striking observation highlights the paradox many of us live with, valuing others' judgments over our own self-assessment. Seneca echoed this sentiment by emphasizing the importance of living a life true to oneself, not one shaped by the expectations or approval of others. He believed that true contentment comes from within, from living a life that's congruent with our principles and values. Epictetus taught that worrying about others' opinions is outside our control and therefore not worth our energy. He encouraged focusing instead on our own actions and on living virtuously, as that's where our true power lies. So how can we start caring less about what others think and more about being true to ourselves? First, it's about understanding that you are the author of your life story. You have the power to define your worth, not society, not your social media followers, nor the people around you. It's about grounding your self-esteem in who you are, the values you stand for, the kindness you spread, and the effort you put into being your best self. Second, practice self-reflection. Ask yourself, whose life am I living? Am I making choices based on my desires, or am I trying to fit into someone else's mold? Reflecting on these questions can help realign your actions with your true self. Third, embrace vulnerability. Being true to yourself means being open about your flaws and all, understanding that perfection is an illusion. It's okay to be a work in progress, making mistakes and learning from them. This authenticity attracts the right people into your life, those who appreciate the real you. Moreover, remember the words of Aristotle, who spoke about the golden mean, finding balance in life. Applying this to our concern for others' opinions, it's about finding a healthy balance between considering constructive feedback and maintaining our autonomy and self-worth. Incorporating a Stoic mindset into our lives means understanding that our worth is determined by our virtues, our actions, and our commitment to living a meaningful life, not by external accolades or approval. It's about building a strong inner fortress that remains unshaken by the fleeting opinions of others. Let's commit to valuing ourselves for who we truly are, not for the likes, follows, or approval we receive. Let's be courageous in our authenticity, living lives that resonate with our deepest truths. Remember, your worth is inherent and unique, and by being true to yourself, you shine your light in the most genuine way possible. Let's not just navigate life, but thrive in it, with the confidence that comes from knowing we are living authentically, aligned with our values and true to ourselves. Here's the thing. Accepting change is not just necessary, it's vital for our growth and happiness. The reality is, the only constant in life is change. Learning to go with the flow and embrace life's inevitable shifts makes navigating through them less scary and more of an adventure. The Stoics, accepting change, had an incredibly healthy perspective on change. They saw it as a natural part of the universe's rhythm. Marcus Aurelius said, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" This profound acceptance of change as part of the fabric of life helps us understand that each change, whether we perceive it as good or bad, has its place in our story. Seneca taught that becoming too attached to our current circumstances can lead to disappointment, because inevitably those circumstances will change. He advised us to be flexible and to understand that change is not just a part of life, but a necessary component of our personal development and happiness. Epictetus encouraged us to distinguish between what we can control and what we can't. He pointed out that while we can't control external events, we can control our attitudes towards them. This mindset is incredibly empowering when it comes to dealing with change. It's about focusing on our responses, finding the opportunities for growth within the change, and moving forward with resilience. But how can we become more accepting of change? First, by acknowledging that change is inevitable. It's the natural order of things. Everything around us is in a constant state of flux. Seasons change, people come and go, and our very selves are renewing themselves as we speak. Embracing change means embracing life itself. Second, by practicing mindfulness. Being present in the moment allows us to appreciate our current experiences without clinging to them. This awareness creates a space for acceptance when those experiences inevitably evolve or come to an end. Third, by seeking the lessons in change. Every shift in our lives, no matter how challenging, comes with opportunities to learn and grow. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we can ask, "What can I learn from this?" This shift in perspective can turn the challenges of change into stepping stones for personal development. Aristotle spoke about the importance of pursuing a virtuous life as the key to happiness. Part of virtue is adaptability, the ability to navigate life's changes with grace and wisdom. It's about finding balance and harmony within the flux of life. Modern psychology supports this Stoic approach to change. Viewing change as an opportunity rather than a threat can significantly reduce our stress and anxiety levels. It can enhance our resilience, making us better equipped to handle whatever life throws our way. Let's remind ourselves that change is not just something to endure, but to welcome as a natural, enriching part of our journey. By accepting change, we open ourselves to new experiences, growth, and the beautiful unfolding of our unique paths in life. Remember, going with the flow isn't about passivity. It's about actively engaging with life in its full, dynamic complexity. Let's navigate the currents of change with courage, grace, and a heart open to the endless possibilities that change brings. Despite our differences, we're all in this together, navigating the complex journey of life. By fostering an understanding and caring attitude towards others, we contribute to making the world a kinder. Practicing compassion and empathy. More loving place. The Stoics, those ancient philosophers who continue to enlighten us with their timeless wisdom, placed great importance on the virtues of compassion and empathy. They believed in the interconnectedness of all humans and taught that kindness and understanding towards others are essential aspects of living a virtuous life. Marcus Aurelius, for instance, reminded us that human beings are social creatures by nature, meant to live in harmony and cooperation with one another. He said, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." This beautifully illustrates the idea that our well-being is intrinsically linked to the well-being of others. Seneca emphasized the importance of treating others with kindness and generosity. He argued that compassion is a natural human instinct and that by helping others, we also help ourselves. In his writings, Seneca encourages us to extend our empathy even to those who have wronged us, understanding that they too are acting out of their own struggles and limitations. Epictetus taught that we should strive to understand others' perspectives, recognizing that everyone has their reasons for their actions. This doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior, but rather approaching others with a mindset of empathy, seeking to understand their experiences and viewpoints. But how can we practice compassion and empathy in our daily lives? It starts with listening, truly listening to the stories, experiences, and feelings of those around us. It's about putting ourselves in their shoes, imagining their struggles, their joys, their fears, and their hopes. This act of understanding can bridge the gap between us, fostering a sense of connection and shared humanity. Another way to cultivate compassion and empathy is through acts of kindness, no matter how small. A smile, a kind word, a listening ear. These can all make a significant difference in someone's day. By being present and attentive to others, we signal that they matter, that their feelings and experiences are valid and important. Practicing compassion and empathy also means being there for others in times of need, offering support and understanding without judgment. It's about recognizing the value and dignity of every person, regardless of our differences. The ancient philosopher Aristotle spoke about the importance of friendship and the role of empathy in building strong, meaningful relationships. He believed that true friends not only share in each other's joys, but also in their sorrows, supporting each other with empathy and understanding. Modern psychology supports the Stoic emphasis on compassion and empathy, showing that these virtues not only enhance our relationships, but also our own emotional well-being. By caring for others, we foster a sense of belonging, purpose, and happiness in our own lives. Let's remind ourselves that behind every face is a story, behind every action is a reason, and that by understanding and caring for each other, we make the world a kinder, gentler place. In doing so, we not only enrich the lives of those around us, but also find deeper fulfillment and joy in our own lives. Together, let's spread kindness like confetti, creating ripples of compassion that transform the world, one act of empathy at a time. Reflecting and reviewing regularly. This is about taking a pause, a real, meaningful pause, to look back on our actions, our thoughts, and the paths we've tread. It's about growth, introspection, and aligning our lives with our deepest values. In a world that's always rushing forward, this practice is our anchor, ensuring we're not just being swept away, but are sailing in the direction that's true to us. The Stoics, with their profound insights into human nature, placed immense value on the practice of reflection. Marcus Aurelius, in his personal writings, which we now treasure as meditations, offered a model of this practice. He didn't just rule an empire. He took the time to examine his life, his decisions, and his moral compass. Through writing, he saw this reflection as essential to living a life of virtue and purpose. "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts," he wrote, reminding us that our internal dialogue shapes our external reality. Seneca recommended regular self-assessment as a way to foster self-improvement and wisdom. He likened life to a play, suggesting that we periodically review our roles and performances. Are we acting in harmony with the character we wish to embody? Are our actions reflective of the script we value, the script of our lives? Epictetus encouraged his students to end each day with a review of their actions and attitudes. This wasn't about self-criticism, but about self-awareness and growth. He urged us to ask ourselves, what did I do well? What did I do wrong? What duties left undone? Through such questions, we can steer our lives more consciously, making adjustments that bring us closer to our ideals. But how do we incorporate this Stoic practice of reflection and review into our modern lives? First, by making it a habit. Dedicate a few minutes each day, perhaps before bedtime, to reflect on your day. What were your victories? Where did you face challenges, and how did you respond? This practice can start as a mental exercise, but writing it down can enhance its benefits, giving you a tangible record of your journey. Second, use reflection as a tool for gratitude. In reviewing your day, also take note of the moments, no matter how small, that brought you joy or gratitude. This balances our natural tendency to focus on the negative, cultivating a more positive outlook on life. Third, approach this practice with kindness. Reflection is not about berating yourself for mistakes, but about recognizing them as opportunities for learning and growth. Be as understanding and supportive to yourself as you would be to a dear friend. Aristotle spoke about the importance of living a reflective life. He believed that true wisdom comes from understanding ourselves, our actions, and our place in the world. This reflection is the essence of living an examined life, one that's in accordance with virtue and excellence. In modern psychology, the benefits of regular reflection are well documented, showing improvements in mental health, clarity of purpose, and personal growth. Reflecting on our experiences helps us process emotions, learn from our actions, and make more informed decisions moving forward. Let's commit to this practice of reflecting and reviewing regularly. Let it be our guidepost, ensuring that we're not just passively experiencing life, but actively shaping it according to our values. By taking the time to look back, we gain the insight needed to move forward more aligned, more aware, and more in tune with the essence of who we are and who we aspire to be. Let's cherish this journey of introspection, for it is in knowing ourselves that we find the path to true fulfillment and joy. Each of these lessons from Stoicism isn't just ancient wisdom. They're life hacks that can help us deal with stress, make better decisions, and find peace in chaos. Remember, it's not the challenges along the way that define us, but the strength we find in facing them, the wisdom we gather, and the compassion we share. Each step, each reflection, each act of kindness is a brushstroke in the masterpiece that is your life. So let's not just exist, Let's live vibrantly, purposefully, authentically. As we part ways today, I encourage you not to let the inspiration end here. On the screen, you'll find a playlist that's a treasure trove of wisdom, stories, and strategies to help you navigate life's twists and turns with grace and resilience. Click on it, dive deeper, and continue to sculpt the most authentic version of yourself. Together, let's keep growing, keep reflecting, and keep embracing the beautiful complexity of life. Thank you for sharing this time with me. Until we meet again, remember to live not just for the applause, but for the cause of being your most genuine self. Take care and see you on the next step of our journey.